Before suns and moons and light, there was a great emptiness that did not know itself. It had no eyes to see itself, no hands to feel its face, and no tongue to taste its breath. So from the center of this beginningless awareness, an invisible flame burned into being, and from it, its warm heart, came the light. And so it was that the first light came to be. The light announced itself at the center of a boundless ocean of emptiness, and its long rays reached into that void and found no end to it. And so it was that the light's desire was to give warmth, and with its rays it caused the darkness to huddle around it, and so was made the first other, and with it the first shadow. The shadow was of the light as much as anything, and bearing a great love for it, the light searched the dark for secret caused and brought wondrous form into being. It warmed these countless things and brought them into being, and the light forever washed over them. Soon the great emptiness was hardly empty at all. The great sea was now filled with forms and light, and the emptiness sat beneath it all and knew the joy of creation and of being its source. Motivated to give illumination and to warmth to all things, the light divided into many stars that were no smaller or larger than the light when it was one. The stars each had their own rays and gave warmth to many distant spheres, the faces and forms of which remain unknown to the folk to this very day. And, as the Madrid worlds began to glow with the light, the stars felt love for what they lit, and to care for all within the light gave up their most precious radiance. Those rays became flowing serpents, and those serpents the custodians of the world. The 8 longest and most radiant serpents forged from the light's very heart, the 8 keys that can unlock those secrets of creation that had been hidden since time without beginning. And each serpent but one bestowed their gifts in turn, and there was no world that was more serpent-blessed than our own world that was. Touched by each key in turn, it flourished in the display of the countless things, and, most curious among these things, humanity. The luminous guardians cared for all that the stars shone upon, and humanity manifested wisdom and civilization upon its world, and amidst towers and temples, turned its gaze to the heaven. And so it was. And humanity proved wise. And humanity proved cunning. And humanity proved kind. And humanity proved strong of will. And humanity proved persevering. And humanity proved powerful. And in this way, humanity earned their initiations through ordeal and the revelation of mysteries. It was by these virtues that the light serpents considered the fate of humanity. Was it time to reveal unto its sovereign race the keys and secrets by which they were made? 7 felt no, but one stood against the 7 and said that humanity had earned its place, earned its turn to take up the keys so it may choose its place among the stars. But it was even this dissonant serpent that warned of the 8th key. The black key, a forbidden key. In turn, humanity made quick use of the keys, adorning its world in splendor and wonders exceeding all dream and aspiration. Despite such glorious power, the mysteries of the black key proved too great to go unraveled, and so it was that the world that was unmade. The sky was black, and the sun was at its center. Space undid itself around the edges of the great white disk and fell. As it fell, the world broke, and men were tossed from their temples and clung to the pieces of the shattered world that was. The black of space unfurled beneath us as a boundless sea that still pulses with the dying stars frozen within its murk. And then it stopped. It all stopped. The falling shards of the world froze in their places, and the 7 were made new. It was then that humanity looked down from the edges of its broken world and knew what it had done and trembled. But even as it feared the dark sea below, a warm light shone on its back, and humanity once more turned its gaze to heaven. Above, more radiant and giving than ever, the absolute light, the light eternal and first, the Overlight, we call it. And it is by its colored rays that you will know your power, O Skyborn child.
Hi!
Woohoo!
Welcome to
Thanks
the
for hanging
first
out.
episode.
Yeah. Oh, it's the first episode. Oh,
Sound.
speed and rolling. Yeah.
I still can't hear you.
Someone just said.
They
Chat,
said
can
we
you all
still
hear?
can't hear Doc.
Someone verify. Can you or can you not hear Dot? This episode's not going to go anywhere if you
Wait.
can't hear Dot. So
Can you hear me now?
Sort that. Up, still no. Okay, how about now? No Dot.
Wait, there's a
okay,
little
we're gonna
delay.
wait for the
Yes,
delay.
there it is.
There's
Wait
a
for that.
yes.
Wait,
Yay!
there we go. Okay. Sorry about that, gang. I'll just start over. It's fine. I'm a professional. Welcome to the first episode of Nova. This is
There's
an
heavy echo.
heavy echo.
Just heard Dot.
Okay, there's good to know there's heavy echo. I'm trying to. What is going on?
My cat's screaming
that
in the
can't
background
be
now.
it.
It's a whole thing.
There's heavy echo. I don't know why that would be. Okay, so I'm getting a yes, there's an echo. Why would that be? There's only one. I have a new mic, but it shouldn't be echoey.
I'm not hearing an echo on my monitoring of the stream.
Okay, everybody hang on. I gotta hear myself. There may be a double echo, because now I need to hear myself on the Zoom. I don't know why there's an echo. I do have a... There may be a double echo, because now I need to hear myself on the...
Oh, I hit the wrong button.
Check, mic. Okay, I don't hear an echo on the stream.
I don't either anymore.
Perfect. Great. As long as it's not there anymore. It's more
I
like
hear
Might have been
on
there once,
Zoom.
but it's not there
a
now.
stutter. Yeah, that could be Zoom. Not sure. As long as you can hear me. As I was saying, when I realized my mic was muted, or not plugged in at all, I'm so excited about this campaign. I've been excited since I picked this game up at Gen Con this past year. I have been kind of scouring the book for a while and trying to figure out what I'd want to bring to a campaign like this. We all usually start in D&D, and this is a fantasy game, but it's not going to be the fantasy game that you all know, which I think is what makes it so unique and absolutely beautiful. So be prepared for weird things. You know, if you know me, I like weird. And I've collected the greatest and potentially weirdest group of folks that I could find to bring to this table. Some of them have played this game before, some of them have not. So I'm going to let them do a quick intro around the table. We're going to get proper character introductions, but just tell us maybe, you know, who you are, and the name of the character that you're playing. And, you know, if you're new to this system, maybe what you're excited about, because, yeah, awesome. So let's start. And actually, Kai, you're up first.
Hey, I'm Kai, Stonefly Kai, _Kai on everything. As far as what I'm excited for, I am so pumped. Everybody knows I'm an artist, so just the colors and the way that those are infused in a story is like speaks to my soul.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. My character, her name is Maddox. She's a monk, and we'll learn about more of her in a bit.
That we will. Trooper, somebody not necessarily new to the channel, but you've been gone a little bit.
I have been gone a little bit, sadly. I mean, I don't know when the next time I'm going to be able to play Lord Florian of Greendale, my fop, but I'm hoping sometime soon because he's hilarious with his parent issues.
It's true. And who knows, you may be back for some more space action before it's over with.
Oh, my costume's right over there. You can't see it, but it's right there. It's just waiting. And also, my teddy bear's right up there too. I'm ready at any moment. If there's
what
like
I'm
an
hearing
emergency dev
is
moment,
you're coming back.
got a teddy bear. Yeah, I'm so excited.
I'm so glad.
I'm Trooper SJP. I was gonna say I'm Dev. I'm also Dev, but not for this show.
Not for this show.
I'm Trooper SJP. No, totally different person. I'm excited because I love fantasy, but there's more than one kind of fantasy than Tolkien-inspired Dungeons and Dragons, which is awesome, but it's nice to see other kinds of fantasy sometime as well. And so getting a new system that does something quite different is exciting. And I first was introduced to Overlight when I was watching it on Geek and Sundry, because Eliza Pearl, who I love, was GMing that, and I was like, what a cool system. And I thought, I wonder if one day I'll be able to play it. Oh, I don't know. You know how my life is. Maybe never. And then Dot invited me, and also then this cast is amazing. So I'm really excited to play with Dot and with this amazing cast in a setting that is really quite different from what I've seen normally. So I'm like, also, it's like a dice pool system, so I'm excited about that as well.
Yeah, I'm just glad to have you back. Not like I see you every Friday or anything. It's fine.
But there's less torture in this game.
That's true. Well, we're just getting started, sir. So don't count your cards too quickly. No, I'm glad to have you back, Trooper. And did you tell us who you're playing?
No.
Well.
Oh, I'm playing Tikara. But you'll find out more about Tikara when the game starts.
It's true. It is very true. Next up on mine is DM Jazzy Hands. Eugenio? Did I get that right?
Yeah, you did. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eugenio, also known as DM Jazzy Hands. I'm around on the Twitters at DM Jazzy Hands, as is my podcast, Last Refuge. I'm super excited to be playing Chalitani, who goes by Chali, a Hamanu, which is like an ape person who is overlight bonded to the wonderful Maddox. We are both from the Shard of Zenith. We'll talk about this more later, but she and I have been partnered for a very long time, and I'm super excited to get to play these two sort of foils of each other. We've been chatting a little bit about it. I'm very excited.
Should be. I think it'll be.
I'm also excited because I. Go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say I'm excited to see it too because I think it'll be a great like showing of the world, the contrast of the creatures and living things of this world, which is why when both of you were like, we want to do this, I was like, I'm here for it. Make it happen.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I'm also super excited for this because Dot and I managed to get our hands on this game at the same time at Gen Con. My God, was that only just last year?
Just last year, yeah.
Oh, and I got to run, I think it was just a 6-episode arc of this on stream, maybe like 6 months ago. And I'm super excited to now get to be on the other side of the GM screen and mess around as a player character. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited you're here too. That way, if I screw up, I can be like, did I get that right?
Well,
I've got like a checks and balance system.
Totally. So mechanics, yeah, totally. But that's actually one of the things that I realized about halfway through my campaign that I love about this world is that because it's so new and because relatively speaking, there's so little published material about it, they really encourage you as you are playing to like fill in the holes yourself, which like as a big ol' like canon lore nerd was an adjustment for me. But once I got used to it, it was so exciting to get to like really create it and not feel like I had any canon restraints about like what other people think the world is and this and this and that.
Yeah, it's interesting. The first part of the book, actually, okay, I'm gonna gush over the system really quick. Now that you say that, the first part of this book, actually is written as first-person letters. Which I think is really, really neat. They're basically it's like letters written to an upcoming Skyborn child, somebody that's like training, and so you learn so much about each of the worlds, which we're going to talk more about here in a second, by this kind of first person perspective, which made the book very interesting to read, at least for me. It made it
and also like,
and it seemed like it just seemed like less of a manual. It was like it's like reading VTMs like that. It's like as you read it, you're getting world information and you're getting this feeling of who and how creatures and these species exist, but you're not getting these like this. It's not a history book either. It's just like it was just so beautifully done. The book is just so beautiful. And I think that it really encourages, like you were saying, that like fill in the blank type mentality.
And even with the stuff that he does, that this Tyrixian, he's this bird person tutor, does tell us in this book, like, it's like any other first person narrative, right? Like, maybe he's an unreliable narrator. Maybe some of what he says is not actually the way things are. As a Tyrixian, like, he has very specific viewpoints on the world, which if Kai and I actually hadn't been doing this Monk Hamanu pair, I was going to ask you if I could play that Tyrixian.
Oh, really? That's funny. We might actually get to meet that Tyrixian. Was one of the ideas I had. He is, in fact, the knowledge seeker. So I thought, why not? So yeah, very cool. Well, I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad to welcome you to the Dot Lot for the first time. All of you in chat. Yeah, if you're a subscriber, show some Dot Lot love to a new face. So I'm glad because we've been talking about this for a while.
For a while,
y'all. So to have you here is very exciting.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, and another face that is not necessarily new to the channel, but you know he's gotten a break from space, and now you're coming back for fantasy, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. How are you, Jason?
I am fantabulous. Jason T. D&D DM from Twitterverse, and a lot of you probably know me from Scum and Villainy campaign, where I was on there with playing Janice with Dev, which we have unfinished business, so we'll definitely be getting that at some point. I guess what drew me to Overlight originally was the cover art. I was like, wow, okay, that really stands out above all else. And then when you really kind of deep dive into the book, it is lore rich without making it feel heavy. It's very artistic in the way that it's done that. Yeah. And the best part about it to me is how it's taken that lore and interwoven it into the very fiber of the characters that you create. It's very much how light diffracts.
Yes.
Is how the lore diffracts throughout this culture that is this entire world that they built. And it's absolutely amazing how that all sort of links and flows together and directs you in your personal character narrative. So I'm excited to see where it goes. The writer in me was definitely highly intrigued by this book, and I think a lot of other people would feel the same way.
Yeah, I remember too looking at the front cover and being like, I've never seen any RPG book like that. For all of you at home, this is what the front cover looks like. I don't know if I can get it. It's so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. And so I remember picking it up and being like, look at the colors and the things. And I had a similar kind of visceral reaction to just the physical design of the book, which I think says so much, because physical design is not something we usually think about in tabletop RPGs, but it really is impactful in this case. I can be honest about that. So
here they are.
The image you see, the image you see behind me.
Yep.
One second. The image you see behind me, guys, is that's the DM screen. So that's like 1/3 of the DM screen.
I actually have a DM screen, though I don't know if I can get it all in the.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So there's the half of the DM screen. Here's the other. Boop. So I'm gonna keep this nearby. I don't think I can open it up entirely on my desk, but I want to use it for reference. But yeah, so here we are, the four of us, or four of them, and me, Dot. I'm gonna GM this one, obviously, and, like I said, I'm terribly excited. They've made really interesting, choices they've made, for their characters, and, I actually originally planned to run one of their, modules, and decided not to. I got inspired by another idea after our session 0. For all of you at home, please know that we are using safety tools at this table. So, throughout this campaign, know it is a fantasy setting, and there may be some troublesome ideals and concepts that come up. Many of the species here are in conflict with one another in various ways. So if you feel uncomfortable, I encourage you to step away. Your health and your happiness is significantly more important than any dice we'll be rolling at this table. And my players have been equipped with ways to communicate with me if they ever feel uncomfortable as well. So I make that known because all of you should know that. Great. So I want to kick off. I saw some questions in chat about, like, what is this? What is this game? What is it? Well, for those of you that are used to your kind of Tolkien-style D&D fantasy, this is not that. It is a fantasy world. But for those of you that had a chance to listen in during the countdown screen to the kind of origin story, so I'm going to give that in short and kind of give you an idea of the world that we are existing in, because it is not anything that you've ever witnessed before. So the story goes basically that these great serpents of light that came from this flame, this effervescent overlight, is what it eventually turns into, offered humanity about 1000 BCE as we know it. So this would be times of ancient Egyptians and so forth, offered them the 7 keys of creation. They were told that they could have them as long as they did not use the black key. But being what we are, curiosity killed that cat, and the black key was used. And when it did, it shattered the world as we knew it. And when it shattered the world, all that was left was 7 shards. These 7 shards here on your screen. And these 7 shards become the new world as we know it. Thank you out there for those cheers. Thank you. And each one has taken on species of its own. And after 3,000 years, the history of how the shards really came to be is a bit lost on most people, as ancient history is. But over time, they have developed new civilizations in place of the old ones and what remained. At the top of the shards is the great Overlight. There are no stars or planets. The sun does not set and rise. The Overlight is forever and always there. It shines down upon the 7 shards, constantly. The Overlight is said to be part of everything. It passes through everyone. It connects the world as we know it. And there are certain people, or certain creatures, within this world that connect to the Overlight in a deeper way. They are known as the Skyborn. Some of them choose the path of Skyborn. Some of them are literally born to be a Skyborn. But all Skyborn share one thing in common. That their deep connection to the Overlight drives them to try to fix the shattered world that we created through our ignorance and use of the black key. Each shard is connected to what is known as a virtue. And these virtues, along with the Overlight, can be funneled by the Skyborn in something known as chroma. All you fantasy folks out there might call it magics. Chroma allows them to do incredible things. They have a limited pool to be able to do and make chroma happen, but it is the direct way that they can reach out to the great Overlight and try to make this world a better place. Of course, not all Skyborn are up to par. Some of them have corrupted the means of Skyborn. But our four players, or our four characters, are not that. They each have a reason that they've become a Skyborn. They each have a history and a story as to how they got to be a Skyborn. But today, each of them have been summoned from whatever shard they hail from. If you are near the top, near the Overlight, and I will go through all the shards as we get to them, but if you are near the Overlight, you've got a long journey, because the meeting today takes place at the very bottom, in Pyre. The bottom shard of all 7, nearest the great dark sea. It is a place of great volcanic activity. It's hot, and lava flows across the land. It is unwelcoming, to say the least. And the native species here is also not quite as welcoming. But whichever shard you hail from, this is your destination. Because you've not been summoned by just anyone. The Skyborn Council themselves have summoned you here. You received a letter. Pretty simple. But for those Skyborn seeking entry into a Skyborn order, gaining favor is of utmost importance. And so, arriving and being on time, needless to say, is everything. And so the conclaves of the Skyborn Order have summoned you. And however you arrive on Pyre is not as important as the place that you actually arrive to. In the side of a massive black mountain that matches the entirety of this rocky, hot, and just desolate landscape is a very impressive building carved into the side of this black volcanic rock. Out front, waiting for you, is a, actually this is perfect timing, is a creature. A kind of reptilian-like creature with large wings that many of you would at least recognize this species. Though you may not recognize who this one in particular, I'll say, is. And who do you think would be the first to arrive? Who's our early bird?
Oh no, none of us.
None of you? You all arrived late? Perfect. I picked all the right people for this job.
I think given that I hail from here, it would probably be me.
Okay, that's probably true. You have the you don't have as far to go.
But if they are there, I'm there with them because we always travel together.
Okay, great. So I would say then, unless if you're on Pyre, you have a pretty short day's journey. Though the landscape itself is rough and unforgiving, you have somebody that's native to here. Speaking of our native character, would you like to take a minute to tell us what Artemis looks like and what his people tend to look like from Pyre?
Yeah, so...
Or their people.
Yeah, so the Pyroi, which is the culture on Pyre, they're all rather large, usually in excess of 8 feet, heavily muscled, a few bits of jewelry here and there. Their skin usually ranges from either like a sort of rocky structure to a metallic kind of structure in just an appearance. All of their eyes sort of glow between a yellow to a red. Yeah, they basically hunt really large beasts.
They do. They're a series of hunters. Yeah, and they have a lot of cultural trials, we'll say. Because of course the greatest thing that you can gain is social status.
Yes.
Who are you? And next question. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Aramis. I'm about 8'4", 480 pounds, heavily muscled, bald head with gray cracked skin that sort of has an appearance of like sort of magma lines in it, and sort of bright orange glowing eyes, a massive great axe. And what's kind of odd, other than the rest of his humanoid appearance, is as his legs go down, the pyroid, their legs sort of get larger as it goes towards the feet. As it gets to the calves, it sort of spreads outward into much larger feet. And there's sort of like these sort of flame-like tattoos along his calf muscles. You also see a rather large protrusion on his right shoulder, of where the skin is just sort of um, toughened and hardened and built up over time, to where he has almost a sort of seat-like feature. And setting there is a young girl.
I do have a question because it's important for
Yes.
to be a Pyrenian. How big are your feet?
Yeah. I would say, like, if you looked at a human, like 1.5 times normal proportion. So what would be like a general male would be a 12-inch long foot. It would be like 18 inches by comparison.
Okay. Do you have of the Pyrenians that you hang out with, if you hang out with any of them, do you tend to have average feet, or do they lean on the larger side of your friends? Because feet are a status thing.
Yeah, they lean on the larger side. Hence why I was beginning to be sort of inscripted into the Ghost Worm Warband.
Cool.
Before I got this message to come here.
Okay, great. And as the camera pans up past your gigantic feet, up your massive calves, where we see these tattoos, and we may learn a little bit more about Pyrenian tattoos very soon. And as the camera pans all the way up to this shoulder that basically has, it's almost like a callus on the shoulder, this kind of rocky place, we see this girl. And this is the prime time to tell us what you look like. Trooper, what does she look like?
So I'm playing Tikara, and if those of you who are old enough to remember or who like old media, in the 1970s there were lots and lots of tomboys in the media, and we sadly do not actually have them in the media anymore, but there were oodles of them. You would have somebody like Tatum O'Neal in Paper Moon, or Jodie Foster in pretty much anything she was in at the time, or Christy McNichol, or Joe Polnicek by Nancy McKean, or even Janet Jackson in Good Times. So there was this sort of kind of a super kind of scrawny, gangly sort of tomboy girl with kind of, and this particular kind of archetype is the archetype that Tikara is. She's human. She's from the city / shard of Hark. It's a shard that is just one large giant city, massive, and she's like a street kid. She grew up on the streets of this massive city. She's olive complected with dark black hair that's maybe so it's not long, but it's sort of shaggy, kind of falls into her hair, into her eyes a little bit, and she's wearing sort of clothes that sort of read tough, right? She's also like 5 foot and maybe 90 pounds wet. So but she's got that kind of look where she wants to sort of exude that she's tough. And she's got sort of slightly weary eyes, as if she's seen a lot, sort of rich brown eyes. And she's like a couple of little scars, like little light scars here and there. And she's got a good pair of leather boots that have clearly been walked in for quite some time. And she's the kind of kid that's got like holes in the knees of their trousers because they've skinned their knees so much and they're always sort of getting in trouble climbing things. And this moment, the thing that she has climbed is her best buddy Aramis, and she's up on his shoulder, sort of safe on this massive pyroi.
And the two of you walk in. Now, Artemis, you're from here, so you would know that buildings of this kind exist all across the Pyre landscape. They are used as places to convene. Politics aren't really the Perinean way, so you still have to participate, obviously, but it's not really your thing. So, the cultural thing. But these places exist for everything from gatherings for politics to celebrations when certain Perineans come of age or they complete the trials. And yeah, standing out front, is this kind of reptilian-looking creature. He's a bit older, and you can tell. Thank you so much. And the bar just shattered, and we will get there in a second. Thank you so much, InWhat123, and for all of you out there donating. You see as you walk close, he gets excited because you can tell this kind of reptilian creature with wings and feathers. On top of his head, it stands up like a parrot. And these brightly colored feathers show, and on the ends he's beginning to gray a little. He is aged, but you would know that this creature is not new to you. He is a Traxian, and the Traxian are by far, or at least claim to be, the most intelligent and most sought-after teachers across all of the shards. This Traxian in particular greets you with a bit of a stale sentence, and he simply says, "Welcome, please, inside." And he opens up one of his wings as he gestures into this massive black volcanic rock archway.
I am thankful, Tikara. Usually they talk much more.
And she kind of scritches the back of your head, right? Just because she's up there right on your shoulder, so she kind of scritches the back of your head as a sort of a consoling gesture, but you don't know if she's consoling you or herself because she's never been here before. And by the way, she's about 14 or so, you could say.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And as you both enter, the camera kind of pans around once again. Hey, thank you for that subscription. And as it does, we see another figure walking up. Is it Maddox? Do you think you'd be next? Who's next? No.
No. It's me. It's Charlie. So Charlie likes to be everywhere early, and Maddox can't be anywhere early ever. So we compromise and we arrive exactly on time when we have to be somewhere together.
Exactly on time. Great. Perfect.
Exactly on, and even that is a bit of a struggle, but we do arrive, and I think we've come down. By airship, and so as the ship is getting ready to set down, I am very excited. I should say, I suppose I should tell everyone who I am.
Yes.
Charlie is a Hamanu from the Shard of Zenith. Hamanu are very large ape people. They can sort of look like any sort of big ape that we can imagine. Charlie in particular looks like a mandrill with sort of a blue, so the face is that very colorful sort of pinkish red that we think of, and then the fur all immediately around her face is a sort of bright blue, the color of one of the streams of Overlight, and then the fur right directly underneath it, ever since she and Maddox bonded, became sort of an equally bright green color, which will make sense later, but anyway. And so as the ship is setting down, I am sort of excitedly looking out over the edge, and I turn to say something to Maddox. We're finally... Oh, you're not... Maddox!
And I imagine not too
Maddox-
Where
far,
is she?
right?
Yeah, not too
Not
far.
that big a
yeah.
ship, but it's Maddox. She could be anywhere. She could be underneath the damn thing. I don't know.
True.
She, comes like she's not floating, but when people walk and they're just kind of airy and like a little aloof. So she comes walking out. When you see her, she's about a 5'8" human. She wears very bright, beautiful makeup, which is kind of speaks to her. She's an artist, so kind of like that's one of her ways to show her artistry. She has long brown hair that's up in a faux hawk, the typical like monk pants that are a little bit baggy, a long shirt. She has a pouch on her hip that holds like a sketchbook and some pretty basic paints. She likes to do some finger painting. So on her nails and her fingers, you do see like hints of where there is some like colorful paint. And she speaks to Charlie, and I don't know why you don't just let the time speak to you.
Oh. What? It doesn't matter. It's we're here and we're both so excited, right?
Yes, I'm very excited.
Ah.
I guess.
Oh.
The airship you both, I'm guessing, came in on set you down quite a ways. You've had to do a little bit of trekking. You can't sit down right here because there's a literal river of lava just nearby. So setting, no big
cash.
deal. Yeah, so setting down is not really an option right exactly where you are. And as you'll find with most of the shards, landing an airship is a precarious thing, and there are designated areas for doing such. And tell me, Maddox, did you tell everyone where you hail from? What shard you hail from? The green one. Good answer. So that would be I don't know them by color.
Is that right?
We come from the purple one. We come from Zenith.
Yeah, you both come.
We come from the purple one.
Yeah, from Zenith. So you're both from Zenith. Okay, great. And you are a born Zenithian.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yep.
Perfect. So many cheers. Thank you all so much. Let me add these to the bar. You guys are just cheering away out there. I love it.
I love it.
We've already filled one shatter bar, and it looks like we're gonna have
to find out what happens.
Another one. For all of you that don't know,
shatter bars when we get, and shadow bars are like when we get presents, like puppies. And rainbows.
Yeah. I shatter you with
Cupcakes.
gifts.
Yes.
I'm gonna just guess that that's what the word shatter means.
If anybody watched Scum and Villainy, trust me.
Oh no.
It's definitely cupcakes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It can.
Well, now I'm afraid.
It can definitely be a thing. Okay, so as the two of you walk up, you see the same figure. I would think, are either of you very learned people? Thanks, Tara, for that follow.
Yeah, Charlie is. Where Maddox she feels time.
Okay.
Charlie measures it and studies it.
Okay.
She's not probably not like this Trixian, who I imagine is very sort of reserved and studious. She is very outgoing about her excitement with the things that she learns, but ultimately, like, she thinks through everything, and she is very book learned and thoughtful.
Okay, then you might know who this is. You might.
No.
You might. Possibly you've heard of them. I mean, Taraxians travel all among the shards, right? If education and learning and sharing of knowledge is important, you see them all over. And Hark specifically, with being such a diverse city, even in its problems, you see these kinds of creatures all around. But this one stands with a surprising air about him that tells you that he is someone of import. Most Taraxian think they're people of import, but this one in particular is. Man, we are just feeling that shit, right? Yeah, right. You may think you are, but you're not. So in this case, you might take a minute. There are a couple people that it could be. there are a few people that it could be. I gotta keep up with these bits. More than likely, this is some kind of major scholar, and going down your list, it could be a few people, but you're pretty sure in this case that this is, I want to make sure I get it right. I want to give you his name, I wrote it down. Yeah, okay, I did get it right. This is Tanuak. And Tanuak is said...
That's another thing that I love about the Trixians is all their names are vaguely Mesoamerican and they make me very happy.
Yes, and it's such a cool thing. So,
yeah.
Okay, let me update this bar because we're getting ever closer again. I haven't even given their mission yet, everybody. Like,
you all are the most delightful.
It's just so... Give Dot a break.
I was just gonna say, we're gonna have to get Dot an assistant here.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. We're good. No, you bring on that hype train, gang. I'm here for it.
Oh no, I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying we'll get a damn assistant. Let's not be.
Get yourself a moderator, Dot.
Keep going.
No, so
It would have to be a dit, right?
Yeah.
If you think about Morse code, dits and dots.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Oh,
like,
it
dits
would
are the
be a
smaller
dit.
ones and-
I just
right,
feel
so-
like I can't call people a dit. Like I
Because
can't.
it would inevitably get pluralized, and you'd be calling people ditzes.
Yeah, it would be a mess. That being said, this creature looks at the both of you with a recognizing eye. Again, the feathers on their head kind of flutter a little bit as you walk up. He says, "Wonderful. Please, inside. It is time to begin."
Oh well, let's go, Maddox. It's very serious.
He looks you both up and down a little bit.
And I just look him down, I think.
Yeah. I was gonna say you're
taller
significantly
than him.
taller than him. And you kind of look down at him as you enter. You can see that there are already two other figures standing here. One of an even larger size than you, and a smaller figure on their shoulder. And they stand in a circular room in front of a panel of chairs and individuals. Behind you, you can hear the dragging of the feathers and the wings from this the person who greeted you, and they come in and walked straight past you. And as they walk past you, they don't necessarily take a seat with the other five, but the other five stand. And as they stand, he looks at all of you, and he simply says, "Thank you all for your journeying here. Do you know why you have been called? Your letter was rather vague, just that the Skyborn Order has requested your appearance."
Beats me.
I can only imagine that a summons from, from all of you. Goodness. It means whatever the reason, it's gotta be important.
He very, very dryly says, "It is." A beautiful figure steps forward. They wear a silk robes that kind of glisten from the red light pouring in from outside. They wear a mask, immediately noting them from the veil. They are stunning. Male or female, doesn't really matter, because their presence alone as they stand and step forward takes the average person's breath away. Their mask is massive and adorned. The veil, of course, is known for its creative endeavors, its artistic acumen, and its aesthetic, and its people are known to graft metal and precious jewels to their skin. And that their mask is a representation of not only who they are, but also a representation of their ancestors. And sometimes the mask is actually the carrying on of the name of another person. Some people have lived lifetimes because the mask has passed from one individual to another. This mask is beautiful and blue, traced in gold that matches kind of gilt-plated gold pieces around the collarbone and down that kind of almost blend with this silk dress. And they simply say to you, "I am pleased to welcome you all here. Today is an important day, and one that cannot go unforgotten. We have chosen the 4 of you, 2 teams, you might say, to work together to visit each of the shards. This sounds like a simple task, but it will not be. Have any of you ever traveled to Nova? If your guts didn't drop, they should have. Nobody ever goes to Nova. The creatures of Nova, every 500 years, must in fact complete a ritual. It requires great sacrifice, and probably not what you expect. A representation of a rarity from each of the shards is required as they make a sacrifice to the great Overlight. You will visit each of the shards and collect these items. In return, myself, she kind of gestures with this almost elongated arm. Veil, or it's like if you took a person and kind of stretched them a little bit. And they kind of look and they simply say, my colleagues. They say, I represent the circle of clear ink. How many of you know about the conclaves of the Skyborn Order? Any of you?
I imagine my character doesn't know much about these things at all because I've only just been taken away from a kind of an awful city planet, and I didn't go to school.
I didn't go to school. Dot. What about our schooled folk? Would you? Obviously, everybody kind of knows of the Skyborn Order. They exist to work with the Skyborns, in essence, to make sure they stay in check. And of course, large organizations are often broken down into factions of some kind, but do any of you know of any in particular? As a Skyborn, you're allowed to apply.
I know what I copied from Charlie's papers.
Okay. Okay. And you're an artist, yes?
Yes.
I would say then, when she says that, the circle of clear ink, your ears may perk up a smidge. The circle of the clear ink is a community of artists and patrons of all things beautiful. They love and they lift up those that have skills in various aspects, because art is not defined by simply paint on canvas. And they seek to defend the world's greatest works of art and the places of natural beauty of the 7 shards.
And Maddox would be very drawn to that. She wouldn't be drawn to maybe the status of being part of the group, but she would be drawn to protecting the arts, sharing the arts, having people to speak with about them. Mm-hmm. So she is interested in becoming part of the order.
You see her turn and look at you. It's known that Skyborn sit in the Skyborn orders and their conclaves, so obviously this is also a Skyborn, and they smile. You can see it from under the mask, which is really just a half mask. And their eyes kind of light up. And they say, yes. We have picked each of you for a reason. Another person stands at the end. A monk. Very clear. They don't adorn the same robes as maybe what you've seen, Maddox, or what you see on Zenith. A bit changed over time. You can tell kind of pieced together from various places among the shards as if they are a traveling monk of some kind. But they simply say, I represent the Lodge of Vision. We are shamans. We are a gathering of Skyborn that seek enlightenment and growth through extreme measures and hallucinogens. Another person steps forward. This one is a Pyrenean. I don't know if you know them or not, Artemis. You don't know every Pyrenean, but they are huge. Their feet are huge, and their body is covered in Pyrenean tattoos, which is no small thing. I'll save that one. Only the Pyrenean know how their tattoos are done. The Pyrenean steps forward, and in this kind of deep, booming voice, he simply says, "And I, the Scarlet Hand. We believe in the virtue of might. Members of our conclave, we sequester ourselves to this beautiful shard. Up for debate," as he gestures to Pyre kind of in its entirety out the door. And he says, "It is our job to subject ourselves to the most brutal of environments. We are here to assure that if the shards go to war, that there is someone to fight for us." You can tell the woman of the veil, like, there's an eyebrow that clearly raises because the mask itself, like, raises a smidge. Like, there's clearly a little judgment from the artsy-fartsy group to the warriors. But they stay in cordial talking as the tension gets a little dense. And then finally, a Harkin steps forward. This is probably the closest you would know to be quote-unquote human for all of you, that look the most like humans. And this woman steps forward, and she simply says, "And I represent the Ring of Light. We serve the Council of Seven, and we work to keep peace among the folk. The task we've given you is not easy, and we are aware of this. But if completed, the four of you have your choice of a conclave. No trials, no rituals. This is your trial." "Young Skyborn, you look confused," the Harkin says to another Harkin.
No, I mean, what if we don't want to be in a conclave? What if we just want to do the right thing just cuz? We don't need to be in groups or anything.
Then this is a wonderful cause, and your charitable actions will not go unnoticed, so you can complete the task anyways.
Okay, because, I can do it.
Oh, we've no doubt. We've heard great things of your abilities. And you and your friend, gesturing, of course, to Artemis directly below you as you sit on Artemis's shoulder.
Who's been talking about me?
Skyborn share stories. You seem
Okay.
nervous. Do you not want us to offer you such things? If you prefer, there are many other tasks that can be assigned.
No, if it's a big task, I can do it. I can do the biggest task. Like, the biggest task, I can do it.
Wonderful. Would you like me to tell you what your first task is?
Yes?
This Harkin kind of turns over almost with a roll of the eyes to look at the Pyrenean, who represents the Scarlet Hand. They step forward, their feet. You begin on Pyre. You must complete the trials, and Artemis cannot help you. You see, they seek the rarest and most important of gifts from each shard. And that, here on Pyre, means that it is no physical item, no weapon, no jewel. It is your status, your standing. And when you have achieved proper standing with the Pyreneans, you are allowed a single thing: a tattoo. This tattoo represents your fulfillment of social standing within Pyre. You're to take that tattoo to Nova and remove it from your body. The little one looks confused again.
Tattoos.
Like, is that like metaphysical? Metaphorical. Metaphorical? Is that like a metaphorical remove the tattoo?
This is not a word I know, so no. It is literal, which is also a word I probably don't know. And Dot does. And he says no. He looks actually at Artemis. You know of what I speak. This is the offer. If you feel that you can remove a tattoo from another Perennian that would offer it willingly, that has already earned their status, then I guess you can skip the trials. He judges you when he says that.
Well, I wouldn't skip any trials. I can beat any trial. Just, that's all. And I'm not afraid of tattoos or removing them. I could do it. I've skinned my knee many a time. So, I can do it.
Is that so? Artemis, do you want to tell them what the trials are, or would you like me to?
You seem to be on quite a roll.
He looks at you and, just grunts. You're right, I'm gonna continue talking. He gives you, a little affirmation in that. And, he kind of clears his throat, and he says, great. And he says, I see Artemis has completed his trials, which is why we cannot allow him to help you. So, you will begin where all Pyrenians begin. Let me make sure I give you the right spot, because it does have a low counting.
As he starts explaining these, I'm just gonna. Sorry. Could you just one sec? I don't want you to have to repeat. Give me 1 second, and I'm gonna reach into my bag and just get out a little roll of parchment and a quill. And okay, I just didn't want to make you repeat. Go ahead.
Yeah, his eye might twitch a little. There's a high probability of that as he watches you pull out paper. It's okay. The shamans
Maddox?
are very interested in you.
Maddox very much rolls her eyes, but it's a little smirk, typical.
Yeah. Yeah, you live with this. I imagine there's probably sticky notes everywhere. Not proper sticky notes, but the equivalent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Notes out and everything, carved notes on, ships that we just got off of.
Yeah.
And I do try to in my notes, I try to do the little doodle flower that people do every now and again, and but it's never very good.
Wonderful.
I'd like to make a roll.
Okay, what role would you like to make?
People are talking, that's interesting.
Yeah, right. Blah, 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 blah. The Perennian's just here's your task. Don't fuck this up. Oh, not F-bomb. Don't mess this up.
Grown-ups talking.
Right, and the kid's
I'd like to make an intuition roll to see if I can figure out the politics between these people. Because there are grown-ups talking, and I want to know, who doesn't like who's in charge. I want to get the sense of the people politics of this room.
All right, so this will be our first live roll of the game. Because this is a learn by play, this is the first time I've played it, we're going to explain to all of you how these rolls are done. So on their character sheet, they have selected one virtue, and the shard that they come from also has a virtue attached to it. And the roll is done by dice pools, and the first dice pool comes out of these virtues. So they will either have a D6, a D10, a D8, D10, or D12 associated with the virtue. And they will roll 3 of whatever that die is, D10, for example. Then they're going to add another dice pool to that is based on the skill they are looking. That skill may have a completely different die associated with it, and they will roll 3 of those. The goal for success is 6 or higher. So anything that's a 6 or higher qualifies as 1 success, and the goal is to have as many successes as possible. Then in addition, because we're not rolling enough die, we're going to roll 1 extra at the end, a d4. That represents your spirit die. Spirit being the single virtue that cannot be possessed by the Skyborn. So here we go. Let's get that first roll. And just do me a favor, because I just walk us through what your die are as you fill in the macro.
So we all have, like the colors of the rainbow, right? There are 6 colors of the rainbow. We have 7 of these virtues for each of the colors and for spirit. And we default start at a d6 for all of them, but we can boost those those virtues and up to a d12. And to do an intuition, which is to try to read people. My wisdom is a d8, so I'm going to take 3 d8 for my virtue. Okay. And I have the skill intuition, and I have it. And at default, you get nothing on skills at all. You have to buy those up. And I have a d8 for intuition because as a street kid, what I'm good at is
reading people. Yeah, totally.
Because you don't know what people are up to.
You do not.
You don't know what's going on.
And especially if you come from a really rough and tumble city too. So at least I'm guessing the part of it that you hail from.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wasn't in a nice part of Hark. That was not where I was at. No. So I'm going to pull together 6d6 and 1d4.
Okay, 6d6 and 1d4. Whoa! Okay.
Okay, I get 2 successes, and I roll a 4 on my spirit die.
All right, let's go through this. So 2 successes puts you in what's known as a luminous success. You exceeded your goal, which is figuring out the kind of unspoken dynamic between these 5 people. And but you do it with a little flourish. And
I get to add 1 to my spirit pool.
And you get to add 1 to your spirit pool. So anytime the spirit die rolls a critical success or a 4, you add to your pool. And that pool is what's used to actually activate your chroma. So the more that they have. And it's not handed out a lot. So yeah. Great.
I want interpersonal dynamics.
How do you do it with flair?
Kid. So he's talking, right? And he's trying to be a little threatening, a little intimidating and imposing, as he is. And I can also tell that people are reacting to him in certain ways.
Yes.
And so I do this thing where I kind of just lounge a little bit on top of Aramis. It's like a little bit of I kind of almost a little bit like a cat, sort of just stretches out with a little bit of moppet attitude. And this is it's the smallest challenge that sort of shows me to be, it's a little inappropriate, but not I'm punk in your face, but just a little bit of a bit of a punk attitude done just directly to see how he reacts and how everyone reacts to him, right? It's just a little bit of a display of 5% acting out, a little bit of sass to see how everybody responds to that and how everybody responds to everybody else's response. It's a little bit of that little poke that causes a chain reaction to see how
you're poking the bull.
It's a little 5% poke just to see how everyone responds to it.
What verbally do you do? Or is it like a gesture? Do you give him finger guns, or
it's
you
not verbal? It's physical. It's a little gesture of he's supposed to be imposing, and it's the gesture of I don't care.
That's all I needed. I know that look from teenagers.
You know that look from teenagers.
Oh, I know that look.
And I'm a little bit looking at the ceiling, I'm not really paying attention.
Okay. He gets a bit gruff because he is talking, and I'll tell you what he says because it is actually important for the other people to hear. But
I'm listening. I'm just,
There are a few things. The woman that represents Clear Ink from Veil, she's listening, but she's judging him. And it's the glare in her eye that you see. The conclaves, though all working under one umbrella, don't necessarily work together. They have individual purposes. And it's not frequent, at least from what you know as new or young Skyborn, that these conclaves actually work together. But this is a request from Nova. And from these kind of ancient, almost godlike creatures. So the Skyborn Order has risen to the call, and they believe probably that these conclaves are the right. So the Circle of the Clearing, this woman, she kind of gives him this glare. The person from Ring of Light, that's the Harkin, she is of a very different demeanor. They are business, but they understand that the risk involved here and how important this is. And you watch as only you see this because of what you rolled. You reach over and you watch as this woman from the Ring of Light reaches over and kind of nudges the shaman from the Lodge of Vision. His mind is wandering. He's enlightened, but meditation and focus is not what they specialize in.
Does she nudge him in a friendly way, as if like they have a relationship with each other, like they're.
She does. She nudges him in a friendly way. Mm-hmm. It's like when you're at church and your friend in the pew next to you starts to go to sleep, and you're trying to do them a favor by waking them up. Mm-hmm. That's this situation. There's like this moment of like she kind of flicks him, and he kind of goes back to it. Yeah, and then there is, of course, did I introduced all 5 of them, and I only introduced 4? I introduced all 5, didn't I?
No, you didn't mention the 5th.
Perfect. Maybe it's just the first time you're noticing. Because they wear dark robes, and they have been entirely silent this whole time. They do not stand to introduce themselves, but they listen from underneath a dark hood very intently. The head turns so you know that they're listening, though you cannot see the face. And this is, if nothing else, should probably pique your interest.
Oh, yeah.
The person in the hood. It's hard to read them. I would say with the 2 successes, you don't read them because they're not really having a reaction to anyone. Mm-hmm. But what you get from this is there is some kind of positive connection between the Ring of Light and the Lodge of Vision, that the Circle of Clear Ink is unfavorable of the Pyrenean and potentially the Scarlet Hand, which is all about war and destruction. They are creativity and creation. But they stand here putting on their mask, literally, playing the part. They probably don't meet like this very frequently. Mm-hmm. They do their own business. And the camera cuts as we kind of watch this almost slow-mo moment. As I imagine it's like that Sherlock moment where you're picking up on these finite details that the average person would just miss. And the Pyrenean continues. The first task is to serve on a thrall scout in a war band or hunting party. Aramis, you have done this before. It's super deadly. It's the first step in this grand process. Thrall scouts usually serve as like outriders and lookouts, and it's pretty frequent that young Pyre die during this first trial. It is a weaning process. Yeah, there are various things that can be hunted, but usually you have to be in a party. And he simply says, you'll be partnered with a local scouting unit. Once you have killed your prey, you go to the second step of the trial, and this is where you get to make a choice. The way choice falls off his lips is like he doesn't like to give people choices. You have 4 of them. Again, Aramis, you would know this, and I'm interested to know, since you came of age, which one you completed. He says, you can remove a small amount of bone and skull from the creature that you devour, and bring it to the sons of Shathimus to add to their erected hunting walls. Praise their ancestors. And he kind of stomps his big foot. He says, next, you can simply give up your life to the Jebtusuk, to the Temple Guard, requiring a lifetime of dedication to their honor code. He kind of looks you all over as if, are you even honorable?
Point of order, if I could just very quickly, this is absolutely fascinating. Just pages and pages.
Yeah. I imagine you're like scribbling as fast as he's speaking.
Oh yeah. Talk about some shorthand. It does just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Now, choosing to remain dedicated to these people does feel like it's a little bit in direct conflict with the rest of our mission to go to the other shards. So when you say choice,
he kind of looks at Aramis like, good luck with this group. And he says, your choice is to follow their honor code for life. He says, your dedication is on you. But if you break the code, your life is what they take.
Fascinating. Now, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but how do they know?
He says, trust me, they'll know.
Trust me, they'll know.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I don't know how to make that note, but you keep going, and he says, if it is a difficult decision for you, there is another. You can always compose a perfectly spun stanza, if that is your thing. He eyeballs the woman from the veil. He says, the poets, the ember tongue, demand a perfectly spun stanza. A stanza that you can never speak again, and that they take to add to their endless poem. He's like, okay, great. How, again, I imagine you're like, how do they even know if you speak it again? You know, like the logistics behind this.
Right. I take a breath and then I just see his eyes. It's, go on.
And he says, and the final is the secret group, the Circle of the Brass. Very incognito in their actions, but they require a rather gratuitous offering of gold and jewels spread out over 7 cycles.
Too long.
Imagine you like scratch that one out. And he says, these are your choices. Once your laborious feat is completed, the Pyre will recognize you as a hero, and you can be tattooed. You can tell that he is tattooed all over, down his face. And what seems most interesting about these tattoos, unlike a lot of what you find on Hark, is that they, where the kind of like inking is, the skin around it is almost raised. Because it's not a needle. They cut their own skin, and they rub volcanic ash in it until it permanently.
It's more scarification than it is tattooing.
Correct. Yes. It's scarring definition, which is why many Perennian look like they have kind of like volcanic lines running through them. It's because they've scarred themselves and rubbed volcanic ink into it. And he says, now, I could continue to talk, but I don't know that I've spoken this much in years. He kind of looks over his shoulder. They don't laugh.
I immediately interject with, I doubt you'd have a problem.
He kind of grunts. And recognizing that he's going a little off the rails, and I imagine, I don't know, in my mind, Perennians, they probably glow a little bit when they start to get angry. That, like, fierce ferocity kind of builds in them. But it's actually your greeter, the person who greeted you at the door, that steps up, and he says, excuse me for interrupting. I feel that I should say something. The woman from the veil gestures like, please go on. Save us from him, basically. And he says, the rest of your tasks are each defined my understanding, by the Isle, by the shards. I have seen them, been to them. I know what each of these tasks are because I chose them. For Nova. And he says, so, I will outline them briefly for you, and I will be available throughout your arduous task to try to inform you.
This is the hooded guy?
This is not.
Okay.
The hooded guy still has not spoken. This is
sorry.
the Tyrexian that met you at the door.
The Trixian. Got it.
Yeah, this is Tyrexian that met you at the door. And he says, from Pyre, you'll go to Vale. You're to sketch the face of one person without their mask. Next, on Hark, there is a place that no creature wants to end up. The Great Hanging Prison. There you will find a one-eyed man. In his skull cavity he hides a very rare item. You are to retrieve it. He says on Banyan. Wonderful place. He kind of recounts it, just almost momentarily for himself. You are to attend a bloom toad mating. They excrete a very high toxin. We would like some. On Quill. He kind of stops, knowing this is the home of his people. A contended place of war. And he says, I do not know what you know of our land and our shard, but there is a terrible place called the Crumble. A place where floating rocks do not adhere to the physics of our world. They spin about and orbit one another, crashing to and fro. There are many great stories, tragic ones, that have come from the Crumble. But there is one in particular that the Quillalian do not speak of. You are to find a man named Matla and retrieve his story. On Zenith, the snow-covered isle, there's a place called the Scarlet Labyrinth. The both of you from Zenith would know this. Highly dangerous place, where the spirits and the ghosts of the world are said to be. An underground labyrinth that is called the Scarlet Labyrinth because there, deep in it, is a very rare stone, protected by the ghost of the land. You are to excavate a raw scarlet stone. And when you are done, take yourself to Nova. You must traverse the deserts and find the fallen library spire. You will know it by its green gems. I pray you do not get lost in the sandy abode. When you arrive, deliver the items, and you will be met for the final ritual. It's at this point when he finishes kind of laying out all of your task over these shards and what you need to collect, that the man in shadow stands, or the person in shadow stands. The voice kind of rings out in a wispy way from underneath. And they simply say, as the representative of the disciples of the White Sands, please understand the importance of this ritual. Without it, the Nova Pedra can no longer take their power from the Overlight. Nova will fall to ruin, and the worshippers, those closest to the Overlight, may perish. Are you up for such a challenge, Skyborn?
Yeah.
I'm sure the child's like, well, yeah, that's what I said, right? I already said that. Like, count me in.
I'll look to Maddox because though we view the world very differently, we always make decisions together.
I mean, I think we have to help. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll turn to them and I'll say, it'll be an honor to help your people.
Truly an honor to visit the shards and be a part of something so momentous.
I got a question though.
Yes, child.
So, this is a ritual that like happens every 500 years or something, right? And there are a lot of Skyborn, and you gotta pick Skyborn to do it. But I don't know these two. Like, I don't know if they're famous Skyborn, have been around for 1,000,000 years or whatever. But I've not. I've only just started in all this business. I just started. So I'm thinking that you picking me, I don't know. I feel like this is part of it somehow. Like, I don't think people are talking about me that much anyway. I think this is some kind of, are we symbolic?
A raspy laugh lets out from underneath the hood. The other four there, representing, kind of take a step back. He says, it's true. We could have chosen any Skyborn to do this task. But as the Nova Pedra will tell you, Skyborn are egotistical. They believe themselves special. And we chose the four of you because your attachment to your partner makes you different. It assures that if one half of you perish, the other will continue. Yes, child, we could have chosen somebody grown, but each of you brings something to this that will help you in the coming times. It will not be on your shard, and it will come when you least expect it. But our shaman, and it kind of turns, it doesn't turn its head, it's like its whole body almost like levitates right, and looks over to the shaman who is again lost in space. Eyes kind of glazed over, and it, yes, to be honest with you, child, we had a vision. I did. I took some glowing mushrooms, and all of you were a part of it. Thanks, Jim Song, for all those gifted subs. That's so kind of you. And he says, so I reported. Again, his eyes look a little dilated, and he possibly could be on some kind of psychedelics now. You're unsure. My gosh, so many subs. Thank you. And the notifications are coming through. And that's about all he says. He says, yes.
When they are talking about, like, our partners and them perishing and stuff, I'm going to lay my hand on Charlie's, like, the hand that's holding the notes that she's writing on, in a very, like, you know, college roommate bonded, like, you're the world to me kind of, like, relationship kind of thing. Like, this means more to me now that they said that.
Yeah, notices from Nova. Says those are not subs, but notices from Nova.
Yeah, I'll stop taking notes for a moment and just put my hand on top of hers, and because Charlie I was not sure if they meant if one half of us, like me and Maddox, or Armus and Takara, or if they meant me or Aramis, or Maddox or Trooper, right? Because those are two very different things, particularly for Maddox and I. If they meant if one of the two of us, like, ooh, the odds that the other would keep going on are very slim.
Yeah, and it was a bit vague, the way that they kind of said it. But when you reach over Maddox, it's this person in this dark robe actually points with a hand, and you see it. Probably Harkin. Probably from Hark. It's a relatively human hand. Kind of points and says, "See, you will assure that she will make it to the end. This is not a task where failure can happen. And each of you in his vision," and he gestures again to this, like, zoned out shaman. He says, "You are connected to one another, which means you will hold each other accountable."
I can't help but quirk a half smile at that.
Yep. And a small smile. And this shadowed dark figure simply says, "You have your task. Child. You're muted, and I cannot hear your childlike voice."
It's because I'm small.
Yeah,
'Cause I'm small.
you're so wee.
You didn't tell us what your conclave is about. Everybody else gave us their intro, but we don't know who you are.
He says,
If we're supposed to, like, maybe join a conclave, like, how can we know if your conclave's interesting?
"You are an inquisitive one. I am a disciple of the white sands of Nova. We are a quiet cult who believe in the ancient teachings of a luminary who learned everything they know from the great beings of Nova. If I tell you now in a bulleted list, your friend here will write it down. And that, of course, defeats the purpose. To be a disciple, you must offer your life in the end." You don't know if he means actually offer it or just offer it up for service. He goes, "Yes, it is interesting, little one. Your eyebrows are very emotive." He says, "We've never had one as young as you." He says, "There's a lot that you can learn standing in the pure bask of the Overlight. Not broken through a shard and prismed through another. Not cast in colored shadow or beaming at only one point in a cycle. Nova stays in imminent light through every cycle, and extended time in the sands of it. It is enlightening." And he says,
Thanks.
"And because I am feeling generous." Now this is when the other four turn. Because the word generous has probably never left this person's mouth. And they simply say, "I am offering you help throughout your task." He reaches inside of his, like, massive kind of sleeves and pulls something out and holds it in his hand. It looks to be some kind of stone. And he simply puts his hand forward. Who is brave enough to come take it?
Oh.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Kelly would be too, but Tikara is almost certainly faster.
Yeah, I imagine the little tiny feet, like, like bustle up there.
Scampers down.
Yeah, scampers down. You climb down Aramis as if it's second nature. And it hands it over to you. In your hands, you hold it almost in both of them. It is a rock. And it has each of the virtues carved into it. And he says, now this is a rare item. One that I made myself. Blessed by those beings of Nova. You could say I'm giving you this because the shatter bar filled. And he says, each of these runes have a single use. Those connected to its virtue can, through the channeling of the Overlight, activate special abilities.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. And she does like a little bow, like it's a kind of like somewhere halfway between a bow and a curtsy, but not practiced or studied, but like a sort of a gesture of
right. And I'll go ahead and say this is the first time, because the shatter bar filled, you each get a point for your pool. So, for those of you at home, like I said earlier, they do have like kind of a pool of points that they pull from to activate their chroma. It will vary depending upon character and how many points they use in character build and all this kind of stuff. But every time the shatter bar fills, they get points in their pool, because shattering is actually an actual gameplay part of Overlight, which means when you attempt to activate something and you don't have the pool points to actually account for that, it's known as shattering, which means you basically burn out Overlight from your body. You shatter it throughout your spirit. It was filled once. We are on the way to the second fill. So sometimes the outcomes will also give you some bad things. I might populate something, but it helps all of you. The shadow bar helps you to stop from shattering, is in essence the way it works for players, and for me it gives me a chance to do something really cool. So outcomes for me may be different every time. In this case, I gifted you something. It is just episode 1, y'all. If the second shadow bar fills, I might not be as nice.
The death comes later.
Yeah, death comes later. We'll fill those shadow bars later. And he... Yeah, just waiting to shatter their souls. Could not have said it better myself. I should call it the soul shatter bar. He says, it is no kindness than the beings of Nova. They tasked me with finding a new home for it.
And Tikra walks over to Shali. Shali, hard CH or soft?
Charlie, yeah, hard.
To Shali, because she noticed that look in Charlie's eye, and then just hands you the stone.
Okay.
And then she just climbs up on top of Aramis, just like a kid climbs a tree and stops back up in her perch.
And we kind of watch, I guess, as you look it over. Do you want to make a roll to learn other things about it? I mean, he told you the bare minimum.
Oh, yes,
but
I do.
yeah, I thought you would.
Hell yes, I do.
I thought you would. And then we are going to take a 10-minute break, because guess what, everybody? This is the first campaign on the Dot Lot this season, and the only one that's going to run for 3-hour sessions.
Woohoo!
So we are going to take a break because my players deserve it, and there's been a lot of information dumped on you and them. So let's get this roll, and then probably we'll do a nice little cutscene as we come back from break that will take you into your first trial here on Pyre.
Delightful.
Yeah.
So is this more a folklore thing to know the history of this thing, or is this a science thing to analyze it?
I will let you make that choice. You would get information both ways.
Okay.
But I would say if this is coming from Nova and the actual Nova Pendra, then you're looking at something that they don't use science as much as lore. They're ancient creatures, so you might get more out of lore.
Right. Which, of course, has a slightly lower die rating for me. I love it. Choices. All right. I will say that Charlie's instinct is going to be to try to read the runes and analyze it, and then maybe later, after we've had it for a little while, and you know,
you can spend some more time with it. You can still try to activate it. You don't even know how. You know, there's an activation process. There's all kinds of things.
All right, here we go.
Okay. Look at that, 4 successes. So for those of you at home, 4 successes means that it is a radiant success. You succeed at your goal completely and easily. Okay. Did you have a secondary goal? Because you would achieve that as well.
No, I think I think what it is I am able to use the logic of the way it's designed to actually figure out more about it culturally than if I had just like translated the runes, right?
Cool. All right, so you kind of look it over, and it does have a symbol for every virtue, so that's very, very clear to you. It's actually the craftsmanship that catches your eye a little bit. There's nothing super fancy about it in terms of, you know, if this came from somewhere like, say, Vale, they would have had gold encrusted, they would have painted it, it would be very smooth around the edges. This is a sandstone rock that has been naturally plucked from Nova itself and has been carved into. And the carvings are delicate, as if what has been explained of the Nova Pendra is that they are basically centipede kind of like creatures that have these mandrels along the front that are surprisingly dexterous. And they can do very minute and fine detailing with them. And so it's possible that a Nova Pendra actually carved this themselves, like directly into it. But what's most interesting to you is the layout of the carvings. All over the rock. No particular, like, defined way. And as you turn it, you can see each of them. What is your chosen virtue?
Logic.
It is logic. As you scroll across and kind of turn it around and see the logic one, it almost glistens deep in its crevice. It shimmers. You spin it over to see if maybe it was just the light, but you realize you're on Pyre. There is no light here. You're at the bottom. And you recognize that in that moment of logic, that this symbol calls to you. It reacts to just your touch alone. If it is true that this is some kind of great artifact, and logically speaking, if your virtue is calling to you and the others are not, you're going to have a different person activate this for each virtue. That this stone can be used by many with the right intent.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Hey,
thanks for the shatter bar, y'all.
Yeah, right? Like I said, I couldn't, like, I was like, we're in a council meeting. I can't, like, toss a creature at you or have the sky fall from the... I have to...
It's Pyre.
Yeah, I guess I could. Yeah, in Pyre. I could have had a volcano erupt and, cover all of you. I guess that would have been an option as well. So, all right. So we have a little bit of information. Thanks to chat, we have managed to get a very rare item, so thank you, chat. We are going to take a break because we are, in fact, human, and not Nova Pendra, and need a bio break. So we're going to take one. For all of you, we will be back within pretty shortly. We're going to take a proper kind of 10-minute here, so let me just get that set for you. Actually, it would be at the top of the hour. We'll be back at the top of the hour, so great. Perfect. And then we'll have about one more hour to go, where we'll kind of start the first trial. Until then, enjoy some, awesome musics, and we'll be right back. Chat amongst yourself, chat. I'd love to hear what you're all thinking. I already saw people that are like, don't trust Dot, she's definitely tricking them. I swear I'm not horrible everywhere. Like, they're legitimately just getting an adventure. So chat amongst yourselves. We'll be right back. For all of you that have given bits, tips, and made today possible, thank you so very much. While we're on our break, this is a great time to hit the follow button, to go grab a friend and drag them in so that they can have fun with all of us. And yeah, I know I'm totally corrupt, Gimli. And more importantly, we'll be back. So don't go anywhere. Get yourself something to eat, drink, and we'll see you in about 8 minutes. Bye, everybody. Or bye. See you soon, everybody.
Don't go.
Before suns and moons and light, there was a great emptiness that did not know itself. It had no eyes to see itself, no hands to feel its face, and no tongue to taste its breath. So from the center of this beginningless awareness, an invisible flame burned into being, and from it, its warm heart, came the light. And so it was that the first light came to be. The light announced itself at the center of a boundless ocean of emptiness, and its long rays reached into that void and found no end to it. And so it was that the light's desire was to give warmth, and with its rays it caused the darkness to huddle around it, and so was made the first other, and with it the first shadow. The shadow was of the light as much as anything, and bearing a great love for it, the light searched the dark for secret, caused, and brought wondrous form into being. It warmed these countless things and brought them into being, and the light forever washed over them. Soon the great emptiness was hardly empty at all. The great sea was now filled with forms and light, and the emptiness sat beneath it all and knew the joy of creation and of being its source. Motivated to give illumination and to warmth to all things, the light divided into many stars that were no smaller or larger than the light when it was one. The stars each had their own rays and gave warmth to many distant spheres, the faces and forms of which remain unknown to the folk to this very day. And, as the Madrid worlds began to glow with the light, the stars felt love for what they lit, and to care for all within the light gave up their most precious radiance. Those rays became flowing serpents, and those serpents the custodians of the world. The 8 longest and most radiant serpents forged from the light's very heart, the 8 keys that can unlock those secrets of creation that had been hidden since time without beginning. And each serpent but one bestowed their gifts in turn, and there was no world that was more serpent-blessed than our own world that was. Touched by each key in turn, it flourished in the display of the countless things, and, most curious among these things, humanity. The luminous guardians cared for all that the stars shone upon, and humanity manifested wisdom and civilization upon its world, and amidst towers and temples turned its gaze to the heaven. And so it was. And humanity proved wise. And humanity proved cunning. And humanity proved kind. And humanity proved strong of will. And humanity proved persevering. And humanity proved powerful. And in this way, humanity earned their initiations through ordeal and the revelation of mysteries. It was by these virtues that the light serpents considered the fate of humanity. Was it time to reveal unto its sovereign race the keys and secrets by which they were made? 7 felt no, but one stood against the 7 and said that humanity had earned its place, earned its turn to take up the keys so it may choose its place among the stars. But it was even this dissonant serpent that warned of the 8th key. The black key, a forbidden key. In turn, humanity made quick use of the keys, adorning its world in splendor and wonders exceeding all dream and aspiration. Despite such glorious power, the mysteries of the black key proved too great to go unraveled, and so it was that the world that was was unmade. The sky was black and the sun was at its center. Space undid itself around the edges of the great white disk and fell. As it fell, the world broke, and men were tossed from their temples and clung to the pieces of the shattered world that was. The black of space unfurled beneath us as a boundless sea that still pulses with the dying stars frozen within its murk. And then it stopped. It all stopped. The falling shards of the world froze in their places, and the seven were made new. It was then that humanity looked down from the edges of its broken world and knew what it had done and trembled. But even as it feared, the dark sea below a warm light shone on its back, and humanity once more turned its gaze to heaven. Above, more radiant and giving than ever, the absolute light, the light eternal and first. The Overlight, we call it. And it is by its colored rays that you will know your power, O Skyborn child.
live. Hey, everybody! Welcome back to the second half of the premiere episode of Nova, an Overlight campaign here on the Dotlight. For those of you that have been here from the beginning, thank you. For those of you who just arrived, thank you, Show and Tell. We're so excited that you're here. I saw you in chat. You guys were chatting RPGs. Well, guess what? If the Dotlight loves one thing, it's RPGs. So you've come to the right place. We are playing a kind of obscure, color-based, psychedelic fantasy game called Overlight, and we have literally just started tonight. So our characters have been introduced, not to each other, but to all of you, and have been sent to a task. A grouping, I guess you could say, of factions that serve underneath the Skyborn order have called all of you here because a shaman saw you in a vision. You were selected. And it seems that the reason is because the task at hand is no light one. And it's going to require quite a lot of each of you. But each of you have a friend, a partner, somebody that you rely on, that you lean on. And so two pairs of friends have been called to this event because in its darkest of time, you would have somebody to lean on, to protect you, to keep you safe, and to assure that this mission happens. For it is an important one. The great, kind of mysterious and hyper-intelligent beings of the top shard, Nova, the great desert shard, have put out a call to the Skyborn Order. A ritual that has to be completed every 500 years has come back around. This ritual requires the rarest of items, I would put in quotations, the rarest of collections from each of the shards to be brought to Nova, placed in one of their ancient temples, and left. And it is said that that is all you need to do. Your gift will be the conclave of your choosing. Without trial, without standing, you can choose your Skyborn faction. But that is, of course, only if you complete the task at hand. The list has been given to you. It seems simple, some of them, others of them not. But your first task is one of might, you could say. And as you all think it over, standing on the darkest and most fire-driven planets, you walk out of this building, leaving the 5 conclave heads behind, and you have a second, a moment, the 4 of you, to breathe, to take each other in, to maybe meet somebody that you don't. All around you is nothing but ash, volcanic rock, and it rages with heat and noise.
So, here we are. All of us. I'm Tikara, by the way.
Pleasure, Tikara. I appreciate your curiosity and boldness. I'm Charlie. This is my friend.
Maddox, nice to meet you. I like
Maddox.
your feet, and I point down to Aramis' feet.
I am Aramis.
You're muted.
It is a pleasure to meet you as well, Aramis. So, I know that you aren't allowed to help us, but I
I
suppose...
have never seen your kind.
Oh, me? Oh, I am Hamanu from Zenith, from cold and frigid Zenith. Maddox and I both hail from there. Quite the opposite of this place. You know, the average temperature here is significantly higher than that up on Zenith. I suppose that's to be expected, though, as we're often...
Fur is
underneath the-
dangerous here.
I hadn't really thought about that. But yes, you're absolutely right. This does seem a bit of a fire hazard, doesn't
Burns
it? Yeah.
a lot.
Well...
Ooh, what if you were wet? Would that stop it?
I suppose if the decision is between walking around soaking wet and catching fire, I could dunk myself in a water skin or something before we go too much further.
I imagine your fur is rather hot.
You smell when you're wet.
Yes, that too. Which, on the upside, we'll always know where I am, but on the downside, our quarry, while we're hunting, probably will too. So maybe I should just. It's so hot here.
Maddox,
Yes.
I don't know you. You were really quiet in there. What do you do?
I
The makeup's really nice, though.
I
It's pretty.
draw. Thank you. And I'm going to reach down and kind of touch the coals on the ground. And if Takara will allow me to, I'm going to
Tikara.
reach up and Tikara and like maybe make a couple of tribal like makeup things on her face.
Cute.
Makeup doesn't make somebody beautiful, but I do think you have a beautiful soul.
So as you go to approach Tikara, immediately, instinctively, my shoulder turns back, pulling her away a little bit.
It's okay.
And I get the ash, and I'm like, cool. That's neat.
She's very good.
You feel
And I blush a little bit, like it's just a little embarrassing, because
You're a
I don't-
tomboy.
and also I don't have nice things ever.
Aw.
aw,
Oh.
cute. Well,
Aw.
you know what?
Basically.
I get that. There is a moment there. I would say there is a moment of blushing, but you also feel. I don't know. You're young. How many Skyborn have you been around?
None. I
You
knew I've known I've been Skyborn forever, but in order to go and do stuff, you need to be able to leave your stupid planet.
You do
And that
need to
was
be
not
able to
a-
leave your stupid planet. And Skyborn are nomadic. They have a job, which is to right wrongs and so forth and so on, and try to be good in the world. So they don't necessarily always stay in one place. But her touch, it is full of light. Just the simple drawing of pictures on your skin feels warm and welcoming. The way that sometimes staring into that unexpected painting at a museum does, right? It draws you in, and it is something that I don't know that you've ever felt before. It's very personal, but also very beautiful, and could only come from someone with great compassion.
And it just like amidst all the dirt on her face, right? She just sort of like goes bright, like the rims of her ears are turned sort of bright red. That's where she blushes, and like the sort of like the apples of her cheeks, and she just like, and you can tell that she wants to be tough about it because that's her mode for everything, but she's not quite certain how to take this into a toughness. So she's just like, thanks, it's cool.
And Maddox gets that cue and kind of, you're welcome, and doesn't make a big deal of it, kind of just walks away and tell Aramis, sorry, I swear I'll get
That's
the names
right.
right.
Yeah, Aramis.
I think you're full of color too. And then just walks away. Or back over to not Charlie. Charlie. I swear. Okay, I'm writing down how you pronounce it.
I had
right
to.
now.
I had to write them down how I would say them, not how they're actually written. So don't worry about it. I get you.
If it helps you at all, Tikara is sort of like inspired by the 1980s singer Tanita Tikaram.
Oh.
Right, that's where the name's sort of in my mind.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So you, and he points to Charlie, you write a lot. And you,
Thank you.
you, and he points to Maddox, draw a lot. What do you do that is useful?
Well, we
That is to say, we create and know things
we document the world around us through words and colors.
and colors.
I immediately lean into Tikara. Do not worry, I will protect you.
And I say, as I always do whenever you say that, I can take care of myself.
No.
I know.
And what do you do?
He sort of reaches up and just pats her on the head.
And she just like scritches his hand. Like she likes to scritch his hand because it's like I imagine your skin is kind of is your skin kind of rock-like?
Yeah, it's very coarse.
And like that feels good, right? When you scritch something coarse like that, it feels really good. And so she when you sort of pat your hand, she scritches it back, and it's a thing that she always does. She likes to scritch you.
I protect Tikara.
The scritching sounds like nails on rock.
It does. It has kind of like I can imagine it sounds
Yeah.
like when you're sort of scratching.
And there you go. I'm the world's first fantasy scratching post.
Congratulations.
If we don't run
We've all
across
been
any
waiting.
cat people.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
Love it.
But I protect Tikara. Though she doesn't need it.
I don't need it.
A worthy cause. She is a potential-filled young one, isn't she?
She's spunky, and I like it.
I do things. I can I don't know. I can if you I'm good at
You don't have to prove yourself to us. You were chosen. I believe
Just
you.
like us.
Don't you think that's funny though?
No.
For everything that I've ever studied and cataloged and analyzed, there are 100 other things that I still don't understand. I imagine this is a bit like that.
No, what I mean is we were in a vision. So I think that there's something about us that is part of the trial. So I don't think like we were just like, oh, let's pick some people. I think there's something about each one of us that is necessary for the trial, but I don't know what it is yet.
Well, our experience of at least 3 different shards will surely come in handy. I'm curious to see what it is, how things go on Vale and Banyan and Quill, those places that Maddox and I, at any rate, have much less experience with.
I've been all over. I haven't. I've never been anywhere.
Is it obvious you're lying? Like that kid obvious? Okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
Immediately, you're mentioning a veil. Like, Aramis sort of just kind of shirks a bit. He very much hates their gaudy waste of metal.
That is a great way to put that.
It
What
really is.
I didn't get an opportunity to interject in the room, but God, he's just eyeballing that one person from Vale the entire time.
Yeah, because I mean, they were gaudy, that's for sure. At least I'm sure,
Oh,
by
I
your
thought she
standards.
was beautiful. They were beautiful.
Sure, but so how do you two know each other?
That is a long story. Yes, exactly correct. Maddox is like gonna answer in 2 words, and Charlie's like, "Oh, sit down." Exactly that.
Maybe right now is not the best time for the full story.
As
We'll
always,
get
you see
through
the big picture.
this trial, and then if we have time, we'll talk about it. Maybe on a spaceship.
But like, was it dramatic? Was it like it storm? Because you're like a snow place,
Charlie's
right?
always dramatic, so yes.
Oh,
I was just going to say the way I tell it is very dramatic, but anyway.
I want to hear that story.
Well,
We'd
how
love to
about
share
this?
it with you.
If we get through this trial on our way to Vale, that'll be the first thing we talk about.
Okay.
So that Kai and I
And
have
we'd
a
love to
chance to
hear
get our
yours,
stories
too.
straight.
I see what's happening there. It's only episode 1, everybody.
That's right.
Well, you have a minute, and you're all talking. And
wait.
yeah,
Tikara says, I can tell you how we met. I saved them.
How?
I've got ways.
Oh. It sounds like we both have stories to tell on our way to Vale.
From trouble. I saved them from trouble. And she just kind of scritches. She just scritches Aramis.
Oh.
In a moment, you see this sort of like angst come over his face, where he's like, he wants to say something with a lot of pride, in that, you know, that to correct Takara, but eventually you see their shoulders just kind of slump. Yes.
But it was really amazing. If you don't know, Aramis is the bravest person. And amazing. You'll find out. You'll find out. You don't know, but you'll find out.
I can't wait to find out all about
Well, I'm
both
very
of you.
excited. I agree.
As do I.
So we're gonna go
Me
like
too.
hunt some
Just kidding.
Same.
some small animal or something.
There are no small animals on Pyre.
That was what I was going to ask you, Aramis. I imagine that you won't be helping us, and of course you can't tell us more than you're allowed, but how concerned should we be right now?
Very. The animals on Pyre are colossal.
You mean like bigger than me? All
Much-
5 foot,
much-
5
much-
foot.
Yeah, I was about to say maybe 5 foot, yeah.
Much larger than me.
Oh. Any tips?
Don't die.
Okay, so they said that you can't help us, but like, I bet there's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Help us.
I will help you. And you see him, he unstraps his great axe off of his back, and he just starts carving the tattoos off of his legs.
Oh!
Okay, you are
Aramis!
gonna have to roll for that. Okay, yeah, you just lean over and what does the knife look like? I mean, you're cutting through what is basically
It's his great
rock.
axe. This is great. That's the only weapon he carries. Is his lava forged great axe. What am I rolling?
Okay, this is going to be definitely your might, I would say, because you're cutting through what is stone skin.
Might, so it'd be might and resistance.
Might and I would say resistance. Yeah, if that's what you've got.
Okay.
Give it to us. Let me flip us back over so we can actually see that roll.
Aramis, we don't... Oh.
Who's nervous, everybody?
Nobody. Me? All of us.
I love that one team is like, we are super nervous. What'd you get? The 4 and the 3?
What?
Yes.
No, that's
No.
mine.
Oh.
No, here you go.
Oh.
3 and a 2.
A 3 and a 2. Okie dokie. Okay. Not too bad. You got a luminous success, which means you succeed at the goal you were attempting, which is to carve a tattoo off your own body. As you take the knife to your massive foreleg, it sounds like moving a knife across a wet stone. As it kind of carves through. There's no clean slice. It is a very tough thing to cut through rocky flesh. And unlike maybe definitely anything all of you have, like when you get an abrasion or a cut, your skin is soft and it kind of wiggles about and it's gross. When you watch Artemis pry this chunk away from their leg, it reveals underneath this kind of embering, burning interior similar to lava. And it doesn't flap about like flesh. It is a piece of thick, hard flesh.
I think like rhino hide.
Yeah, I mean, even it's like rhino hide with a layer of stones, rock across the top or something.
It's the rhino lining in the back of a truck.
Yes,
There you go, that's it,
that's
yeah.
exactly it. So you see it. This tattoo. What is this tattoo of, Aramis?
It's essentially a great axe, sort of like sort of protruding out from a bonfire.
How did you get it?
I got it from the hunt that I went on to as part of my trial.
As you finish kind of peeling rock away from rock and you hold this up, I imagine at least one of you has a look of shock on your face very similar to, I don't know, Eugenio's face at the moment.
Very much, yeah.
Right? And this is probably the
Holding my
most
face.
horrific thing Maddox has ever seen.
Yeah.
For sure. And now holding it up, it's dripping this kind of effervescent red liquid from the back of it. The council walks out.
Oh,
The four of you stand there, and the shadowy figure does not stay. They quickly depart and head off they kind of disperse. The
Where
two
do they go? Where do they go?
Each of them head different directions. They begin just walking.
Noting where I'm noting who walks with whom, where they're going.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, your paranoia sets in and you begin to watch. The shadow figure kind of walks down a mountain like wall line and disappears behind some things as if part of the shadows. The woman from Vale immediately is disgusted at what's happening. She clicks her tongue and exits. You can see the Pyre that gave you kind of the lowdown. He watches as she walks off. There is a hint of him hoping that she will not make it across the kind of black land to her her vessel. But it is the other three that stick with you. No, the other three. So he
Thyroid, the monk.
the monk and the Harkin, and of course your Tyrexian friend who kind of introduced you to all of them and greeted you. And there's from the Harkin, and they kind of look at you like, okay, and they turn and leave. But it is in fact the other Pyroy who walks up to Aramis and he says, "I did not think you would offer up your own markings."
I can get another one any time I want.
He looks down at the chunk, the literal chunk, that is out of your leg. "Does it hurt?"
No.
I wouldn't be a pyro if it did.
"Good answer." He says, "The Scarlet Hand, we learn to accept the pain." And he kind of puts up an arm for you to join hands, knowing kind of a greeting between warriors. There's a real bro moment, I'm sure, as long as Aramis joins hands, that happens between these two massive, red, glowing, rocky forearms. And he says, "Well, I would tell you good luck on the trials, but it doesn't matter now." He kind of looks at the one you've already completed, and he walks off, his feet thudding against the ground.
Aramis, does not feeling pain also preclude you from medical treatment? I'm concerned about that, staying exposed to infection and other. Do you mind if is that okay? Can I just?
Could you please help him?
Please.
If you must.
I really, really must.
All right.
So I would like to sort of bind it. I mean.
Are you just going to wrap
really
it?
Pyro. Yeah, I mean, I think just like, I don't.
Why don't we do this? You know what? Do you know anything about treating a pyroid?
Well, that was my question, because I was also going to earlier ask you about
Okay.
what I know about these tattoos, but I guess that kind of became clear
You know
when
what?
the other
This
Pyro
is.
came out.
But I was supposed to say this is the This is the perfect time for this, actually. You go over to just do what a doctor does, which is put your eyes on the problem, right? And get a little closer, and you squat down, and it smells of sulfur from the inside, of burning rock of the earth. And you are gonna need to make a roll for me. Yeah, I'm gonna have you make a roll for this one. The more I think about it, the more I want to see how much you know. So I would take, what is it, logic is what you've got?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, logic. And what is your skill for healing?
Well, so for medicine and biology, it's usually science. So I can
Yeah,
definitely
because they're
go
wrapped
with
into
that.
that. Yeah, let's go into science, because that is one of your higher skills, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
All right,
let's
see.
do
Here we go.
science then. Okay. Wowzer. Well, there that is. So 5 successes. You come over and you take a look. You've never seen the inside of a pyroid before, so this is all new information, and you're taking it in as fast as you can, and it's pouring into your body and out of you like a sieve. And I imagine you're talking out loud as you're Sherlocking
It's
the
incredible.
situation.
It's obviously extremely hot, but it hasn't cauterized itself. But the blood is not really oozing like normal blood, so maybe it has cauterized?
And so you're talking to yourself, this is all going on, and you realize what's really interesting about these tattoos as you're close. You get closer, right? You're now looking at a chunk without and a chunk with. The tattoos, it's like the stone-like skin connects with the volcanic ash, which is another rock element. It's like patching a hole in a wall. They rip their skin open and then they refill it with an element that their skin merges with. So there's no special ointment, no herb that is going to fix this.
Maddox, could you come here for a moment?
And I just want when they cut the tattoo off, because I'm on them, it's that sort of moment where you kind of do that. I mean, I do this, that kind of scramble. You know, when you were a kid and you're on top of like your mom or your dad's shoulders, and then they sort of do this awkward thing. You kind of scramble, like you don't go anywhere, but it's kind of awkward sort of scramble sort of gesture, and then it's kind of like, so like she's on them in this sort of slightly tense way, because that was intense. Like she's like putting a brave face, like, you know, Aramis, they're totally tough, they can do whatever. But it was, you know.
Have you seen Aramis this way before, like with such might, you might say?
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen Aramis in some
biz.
Let's say doing some violence to other people.
I see. So you know what he's capable of.
Yes, I just have not seen that. But I know Aramis's sort of stoic toughness. But this was a little
Okay.
intense.
You know that the best way to heal this is to rub volcanic ash in it.
So I call Maddox over and I say,
Charlie, I really don't want to come near.
I know, but I
Don't
promise,
make
I promise it'll be worth it. I know. You don't have to look right now. Just come closer.
Okay.
Okay, don't look. Do you remember what the tattoo looked like, the style it was in, how it was shaped?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Do you remember also the other pyroids? There were lots of them, lots of his tattoos. Do you sort of remember the style there?
Yes.
Do you think?
And just as a note, like, I pay attention to those kind of details, so definitely yes.
Yeah, totally. Do you think, and Aramis, of course, you have the final say in this, but Maddox, do you think you could create a new design for Aramis in that style that maybe begins to chronicle our journey? He made such an important sacrifice, and well, it seems a shame to, what is it that you always say? Let the canvas stay dry?
I mean, that's such a good idea, but then I'd have to touch it.
I think...
Oh, yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
I imagine
I think
what
we
was
can
this
probably
conversation
find a way
goes
around
to
that if we have to.
Yep. So are you going to attempt to?
I mean, I think
Yes.
Okay.
and I think like because I can definitely tell how important these designs are. I think that for right now, I would just try to like cover the wound, just so nothing gets in it, while Maddox designs a satisfactory design for Aramis, and like later, so we're not just doing this off the cuff and making up some you know culturally important tattoo here on the spot.
Don't go into a tattoo shop drunk. What have we learned?
Hello.
Right? Yeah, so, okay, so we do see a moment. I mean, you need to close it.
Yes.
I would say, though, Maddox, you have probably worked in all kinds of mediums. And you know what it's like to, say, carve and chisel a statue, to work with marble and stone. Really, that's all he is. So you may not want to carve into a fresh wound, but once the volcanic rock settles and merges with his skin, you could potentially carve some kind of new type of tattoo into a pyroi, and you know, for their culture. So yeah, we watch
Love that. Yes.
as you break some ash away, and you can see when you actually are near the ground, there is just an ever-present dusty layer that simmers, you know, like shaking out a rug, all across the land. And as you rake your hand across the dark rock, it gathers this dusty pile of volcanic rock. And Aramis, you know this feeling. You take that deep breath, which is all you need to subdue the pain, as you begin to literally fill in this chunk out of their leg with volcanic ash, just like patching a piece of sheetrock. You might even add a little water to it to get it kind of damp, to make sure it kind of fits, and you pat it down, and you know it needs to dry, basically. It needs to settle into the spot in the leg, and so you do bind it, assuring that none of it falls away. Within no time, that will now be a fixed part of Aramis's leg. And Maddox can, in some free time, carve away.
Well, Aramis, do pyroids have hearts? Like actual hearts?
I've cut out several, so yes.
So I'm gonna, in my little sketchbook, use the like coal, and I'm gonna draw something, and it's gonna be Takara's little hands holding his heart, and then like the axe behind it. And when it heals, do you like this?
He sort of looks at Tikara and then looks back at Maddox.
A heart.
The heart must glow like amber flame, as pyroi hearts do. So as you look at him, he kind of points to like one of the cracks on his chest. So like to give you an idea where the spacing is between the tough layers, if you left that spacing where the heart design that you're wanting to put, it would glow.
Mm-hmm.
Like negative space, basically.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
all these
an
art
excellent
phrases.
idea. Yes. I think that's a good representation of our first task, don't you, Charlie?
Absolutely, Maddox. You never cease to amaze me.
You do, from touching that wound, and I'm gonna go puke.
and yeah.
And Tikara just scrambles off of Tikara scrambles off of Aramis and approaches you, Maddox, kind of in a rush, like, because whenever she's moving, she's always moving very quickly. She's always just like, you know, elbows and knees and everything. And she just sort of like kind of rushes up to you. How tall is Maddox?
5'8".
5'8". And she just gives you the biggest hug. She just like wraps her arms like right around your waist, and she just gives you the biggest hug. And then
I'm gonna hug her back.
And then she just kind of like, and then she just scrambles back up on top of Aramis.
And I'll whisper to Charlie, she is spunky and I like her.
She's curious, and I like her.
Speaking of curious, as you are in this hug, Tikara, over the shoulder of Maddox, you see that all but one individual has dissipated at this point. Very kind of proper and cordial goodbye is said between the Harkin and the Traxian. And the Traxian stays, looking at all of you in this moment. No facial expression, per se. Actually, I have a picture. I think I could show all of you at home of what they look like, what the Traxian look like. There's a really beautiful one, and I'm probably not going to find the right one, so I'll do this. I'll do the sketch drawing because it's right here in front of me. This is kind of what they look like. I don't know if you can see that. Little kind of reptilian-ish, bird-like creatures. Feathers, wings, and they can, in fact, fly. They are the only creature that can fly. And they simply, they make eye contact with you, Tikara, as this kind of goes, and they watch in a pensive way.
I note them, because that's what I do. I'm always noting things all the time. That's
Yeah, you note it. They don't go anywhere. It's like they're waiting on all of you.
Let's climb back up on Aramis, and I just sort of tap Aramis as I point to the Taraxian. It's like this little quiet gesture. You know, it's a very small thing. Tikara is often like sort of everywhere, but Tikara also these very small, subtle things that if people, not to alert others who might be watching, it's just a little tap and a little point. And since you two are close, Charlie and Maddox, I'm sure you see it, but it's this very small little gesture of a little tap tap and then a little point.
Bird creature. Why do you remain?
I am your guide. I had no choice in the matter. And it seems that you are in need of... You can see the feathers kind of flutter as it attempts to find the right word. Guidance, as it looks at the chunk of your leg in your hand.
I lean into Tikara. I normally do not trust one with so many words.
I look over at Cha'ali at that point.
I'm just, well, I'm really struggling between asking this obviously learned, if somewhat standoffish Tyrixian all the questions.
Yeah, and he seems very, what's the word I'm looking for? Comfortable. He stands contrasting to the land around him, for sure. But he stands here in a complete comfort.
Well, so, to clarify, we seem to have completed the first task, so should we be preparing to go to Vale? Are we still hunting? What's the... Also, did I get your name? I did. I didn't write it down. It's my fault entirely. If I do, it just goes right out of... So I have to really, what was your name?
He kind of laughs at the quaintness of your question. He says... Well, I am, of course, Tanuak. The great Tanuak. And when he says that, you would probably... That's when you would be like, oh. He is well known for being once a very sought-after scholar. And was highly regarded. And is believed to be dead. He was supposed to have been killed.
I am. Could you? Sorry. Who? I missed it. What? Who?
I am the Great Tanuak. My name you have seen probably in many a scroll and book.
Right, like your name's sake, right? Because he's he's dead, right? So you just you
So
named
the
after-
history books say?
Well, now I'm having a lot of feelings about books being wrong. So,
That's where the Shatterbar existential crisis.
Did you fake your death?
No, I did not. My death was very real. Also, we have hit our third Shatterbar gang.
Oh my gosh, you all are so
all are amazing.
crazy and
You're
amazing.
Oh,
I was
gosh.
keeping it because the moment was just far too good. I didn't want to reveal it. So yeah. Well, we got 2 more Shatterbars to get here in the next 10 minutes. I hope you're all ready.
It's crazy.
He says, "I'm no longer what I was. I
You a
serve
ghost?
They can't smile because they have a beak,
right.
but you're pretty sure he found that rather humorous." And he says, "A quaint question, but I am back."
Okay. And you'll be traveling with us?
Ghost.
No, this is not my task. I am simply here to assure that you are settled and have everything that you need. And he does look at all of you, and he simply says, he kind of looks you all up and down, and he says, "You understand that the Overlight is... it is other. And it is..." Now you can really tell. His eyes kind of wander looking for those words. A scholar can't find what he's trying to say, and in the end he simply says, "It gave me back what was taken from me. It gifted a second chance. If you read my books, please excuse my ego."
You came by the ego honestly, from what I've read.
It is true, my brethren are filled of such.
And you had so much to teach so many.
So I thought. They disagreed.
Were you murdered?
I was captured. My travels, as I said, have taken me many a place, including Nova.
You see, Tikara, it's as I said, as much as I know, and I sort of indicate Aramis's leg, as much as I know about biology and medicine, the Overlight restoring this incredible person to life is beyond my understanding. We're going to learn so much.
Yes, you are.
So we just have to do the second part of our trial?
He kind of looks at all of you, and he looks at the chunk of stony flesh in Aramis's hand, and he says, "Your trial was to gain status with here on Pyre, and to have a tattoo placed upon your bodies and removed. It seems that Aramis has already done this for you."
So we just have to do the thing where we eat an animal and then put the bones, or then do the thing with the guard
Oh, he says,
tower?
"No, child. It's too late for that.
Oh, we don't have to do that.
Aramis has already done that. Isn't that right, Aramis?"
Yes.
He says, "You are lucky. Aramis has been working towards completing the first task of this mission for many years. Isn't that right, Aramis?"
Through my entire youth.
It's amazing the way the Overlight connects us. The Overlight has been beckoning Aramis to complete these trials. This is the way it has turned out. I really thought you all would die here.
No way.
He says, well, it seems that you have completed task number 1. Your ride from Pyre. It is that way. And he kind of points back towards the docks. This would have been where, well, the other 2 of you were here, so 2 of you came in. This would have been the kind of area docks or loading dock for this area. He says, I have put together transportation from shard to shard for you, as none of you have, and he kind of flutters his wings.
I wonder, I thrilled, honored, overwhelmed by Aramis's gift to us of his tattoos. I will say, I was really looking forward to studying some of the fauna here on Pyre. I don't suppose we could, I don't know, maybe chat a little bit about some of that and take some notes before we leave. Do we have time? Just...
He says, you have all the time you'd like. We are not here to track you. You have a mission, and it must be completed before the end of the next cycle. For it is then that the Overlight comes for its offering.
Suppose we could just chat on the shot. I'll ask Aramis. That feels important to get going on with.
But we could get dessert, right? Like Pyroid dessert, I bet.
What is Pyre?
Aramis, what's the best dessert in Pyroid?
Meat.
It's true. It's like probably candied meat of some kind.
Can we have some before we leave?
He sort of reaches into his little hip pouch and he pulls out some stuff that he'd been setting aside to surprise Tikara with. And it's like a sort of crystallized honey around a piece of beef that he gives her.
It's known as lava cake. Has to create chat.
Yes.
Good thing it's the end of the show, gang, because
That was great.
no, I'm just kidding. It's known as lava cake.
And she takes it with wonder because you can probably tell from the sort of quality of her clothes, is not high, that she's probably not a person who has seen sweets or things like this before, right? And she takes this with like this piece of wonder, and then she's about to like maybe like chow into it, and then she looks up and she sees these 2 new people in her life, and she breaks the lava cake into 4 pieces, and she scrambles off of Aramis, and she hands a piece to both Maddox and Charlie of this little piece of candied honeyed beef. She hands a piece to each of you, and then she gives a piece to Aramis, and she climbs back up on their shoulder, and then she takes her piece, and it's like, you know, when somebody like has like the best chocolate for the first time in their life, you know, and it's like a new experience. She's never had anything like this before, and she just like, it's just that moment of they passed their first trial, and she's having something amazing, and there's like a sense of like this kind of warmth oozing off of her in this moment where she like, there's been this great sacrifice done by somebody that she loves so dearly, and she's met these new people who seem like they like her, and that is like very meaningful, and so she just has this moment there on like the land of her like best friend, right? This is her best friend's home.
Charlie, as we're sort of having this, says, I was also, if we aren't already, like, since maybe we'll go in the morning, let's sit down and like have a nice, right, like a whatever. So Charlie will take a bite of this and sort of say, you know, this reminds me, in that it's the exact opposite, of something we have on Zenith. And Charlie is going to launch into a story about the history of a particular frozen treat on Zenith. And, oh boy, and she is, I don't know that she's going to do it consciously, but she's going to channel the Overlight while she tells this story and use a chroma called History of Friendship.
Okay. Okay.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's get the roll. So
goodness.
when we channel chroma, this is as close in Overlight as we get to magic, per se. And it is just what it sounds like. You actually draw from the Overlight. This will be very interesting, because you are as far away from the Overlight as you can be.
Yeah, and she knows that, which is why I'm not sure that she's even doing it consciously. But
Yeah, it
just
just
being
happens,
here
yeah.
and sharing this story with new people, I think, is enough to sort of pull it. Well, we'll see.
Okay, so tell us what the goal of the chroma actually is, what it does.
So what this chroma does is the Hamanu culture is in large part based on storytelling and telling stories about our past and doing it in a way that sort of bolsters and aids our friends. And so what this does is, if I am successful, my storytelling raises the spirits of my companions and gives one or more of them spirit points.
Oh. Okay, so we're basically adding to the group's individual pools.
Depending on
cool.
the level of success, it might be 1 or 2 or
Okay.
Well, actually, it can't be more than 2.
Can't be
'cause
more than
Maddox
2.
Can't be
Yeah,
affected
right.
by this. She's heard all my stories.
That's true. Okay, cool. Let's okay, well so we're going to get this tale about a frozen treat from Zenith, which is so beautiful really in its telling, because it is the exact opposite. It is cold and frigid with mountains and snow, and Pyre is known for snow, and it can get cold here. It is, of course, the farthest from the Overlight, but nothing like the snowstorms of Zenith, where you can't walk and they push you off of ledges. It is can be a very hazardous place, and instead of a lava cake, a hot piece of meat, salted and maybe caramelized in some way, we get a sweet, cold, honeyed, okay. We get a sweet treat. Something that quenches the thirst, and can be shared, similar to how I guess we tear lava cakes, and share them amongst the group. And let's get this tale and this roll.
And so it's the story of, how the Hamanu people would preserve their foods in the snow, and someone, it has a funny part where someone spills one thing on top of a storage cache, and that's how we get this flavor combination, and it's a very animated story. Oh, blessings, here we go. Okay.
And it's a 4.
Okay.
4 in your spirit.
Well, yeah, that sucks when I'm casting chroma, though, because that means it takes
You're
cost 4
spending,
points.
yeah, that's right. Remember,
That's okay.
when you're casting it against chroma, what you roll is what you take out. So, the good news is we get 3 successes. That's
Right.
wonderful. That puts you at a luminous success, which means you succeed at the goal. Everybody gets
Yes.
that extra point.
So when on this one, when it's a luminous success, I think it is you lift spirits of your allies. One ally may gain 2 spirit points. And I do think this story is directed largely at Tikura. So Tikura can add 2 points to her spirit
Nice.
pool.
That's so lovely. What a fun story, Tikura.
Oh. She is just like eyes wide in wonder hearing this story, because she has never been anywhere. This is her first time off of her shard. And like, this story is like the most amazing story. And you can tell that she's it's this kind of, when you're, she's leaning forward to just hear your story better. And it's like kind of vaguely precariousness where she's sort of leaning forward on Aramis's shoulder. And you're thinking, is she going to fall off? But she doesn't.
I mean, maybe even Aramis reaches up and like tugs your shirt to hold you back. Just
Yeah.
making sure.
Yeah.
You don't
Just
lean
making
too
sure.
far. You're a good protector. Love it. And you feel better, Tikura. There's actually maybe some form of joy, which I'm sure has something that you don't get very often, and have only started to see in your life since meeting Aramis. Eventually, your friend, your guide, assures that there are no other questions, and he leaves you with a small piece of paper, basically, of parchment, and upon it is written a series of names. each one associated with a shard. He says, these are my personal contacts, ones that, with my name, will help you instead of harm you. I guess you could say it's been a long time since I've seen such camaraderie. It has shattered my heart. I know, I'm the worst. And for your second shatter bar,
exactly.
for your second shatter bar, he hands you a list of contacts that can help you across the board. Maybe you need a new airship, or you need some money or some food. We can talk about what the exchange for that is, but you have some personal contacts of a literal ghost, a man that's not supposed to exist anymore. And slowly, he begins to walk off, and his walk turns into a trot, and then very quickly he opens his wingspan and takes flight. If you've never seen a Praxian fly before, it's pretty impressive. And you can tell it takes some time, because it is hot here, but eventually he catches a gust, and the heat lifts him off and into the sky. And as you all begin treading towards, I'm guessing, what is probably your exit of this place, Aramis, you know this land better than anyone. It is your home. And there has been a request of flora and fauna. And as you said, there are no small creatures here, and definitely not a lot of forest per se. But there is a location you call a forest. It's called the Boreal Forest, and it is known for giant creatures. Beautiful ones that, if very careful, you can lay your eyes on. The ghost worms of Pyre. It would be a small detour, one along the way, but if you and your friends could get in, you might be able to see, for it is, of course, mating season, and they have come out of hibernation. I don't know how much, where, I want to give you the option.
And to be fair, Charlie doesn't know anything about that, so if you don't tell her, she's not going to be disappointed.
She does not.
So,
Tikra knows nothing. She's seen nothing.
Charlie,
Yes, Aramis?
you like strange animals.
Oh, very much, yes. And I imagine there are some strange animals around here.
For the gift of you and your friend Maddox and what you are doing with my new tattoo, I will tell you about one. But it will be, if you want to see it, it will be quite dangerous.
Feels like a big decision, so I look to Maddox.
I mean, look at your face. There's too much excitement.
I mean, aren't you a whole new subject to create art from?
You.
Me.
I see what you did there.
Yeah,
That's
I see what you're doing there.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I
Is
guess
it working?
okay. Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Just a little bit.
Small detour.
Just a little one, like kids on spring break. We just gotta stop and see the side attraction.
And then it becomes weekend at Bernie's, and it's all bad.
It is not far. It is in the Boreal Forest.
Then better.
Ooh, a forest. Perfect. Yes, I love landscapes.
If we come across the hunting war party that I was to join,
Charlie.
I would suggest we avoid them. They do not take kindly to strangers.
And it's a bit of a walk. You spend a couple hours in our time trudging through what is by no means a forest, especially if you've seen a proper one. But it is small trees that grow about waist high, give or take, and it gets dense here and there. They are all cracked and broken and grow like the cracks in the ground at jagged edges. Sometimes they tear at your clothing or pick at a bag on your hip. And as you continue, it gets denser and thicker. The bases of them are covered with some kind of spore that seems to grow here out of the volcanic ash, where bacteria is oftentimes released. And it begins to get kind of thick in the air. And as you dive deeper, there is no trail. There is no specific place that you should be. And to your eyes, you don't see anything but a barren waste of dead trees. And I'm gonna say, Aramis, it would be your foot, big and solid. Crunches on something. It doesn't sound like a rock, and it definitely doesn't sound like a stepping on one of the trees. It's hollow and dense all at the same time. And I'd say, Tikara, if you look down, you see bones. A lot of them. They're beginning to parse the ground, and as you continue, and the spores and fog that kind of, this dense black fog that fills the air, you realize that you are walking into a graveyard of ghost worms. Their massive size, Leviathan, in fact, is what the book says, is huge, and all that's really left is their spine as it lays along the ground, creating the path that Aramis has found. And as you lead deeper, it gets quieter. And Aramis, this is the place. You can feel it. You know it as a hunter. And you wait. And you wait. And just when you think they're never going to show, that Aramis has led you to the middle of nowhere for no reason, you hear something through the dense black fog and sporous air. I wouldn't call it a roar necessarily, more like thunder. It rings out, it pounds through your chest. It may cause all of you to squat and attempt to hide behind what is very little brush as you look up, trying to see what's in the sky. And it passes over you. Its belly runs over all of your heads. Had you not ducked, it might have barreled over top of you. You can see it. Thick and wide, this white creature. It cuts the air, it brushes your hair to the side as it speeds overhead. Aramis, I'm sure, doesn't budge. You're used to this. As thunder lets out again from its body, it rages outwards. It pushes the fog away from all of you, and you're able to see it.
Can I do an unwise thing because I would?
I know you would. That's why I got it this close.
I'm on Aramis's shoulder, and this thing is probably just, like, so close to me, right?
Yeah.
And it's so huge. It's long, and it's going, I would just reach out and try to touch its belly.
So one thing about the ghost worms is they have like these really amazing spines that the Pyre, well, the ghost worm clan in particular, use to make like holy type of weapons.
Yep. Daggers and things.
So, yeah, you see these like really sharp spines going past you.
If there's like a non-spiny part, I just want to touch it.
You just gotta reach out and touch it.
Yeah, because it's the wonder, right? Like, Tikara is jaded, but also full of wonder. It's like that sort of mix of jadedness and wonder.
Yeah.
And if it's that close...
Okay. Well, you have to see if you can touch it, because it is called a ghost worm. It looks solid. You've heard that you fight it, so, yes, for all of you in chat, I love Dune. These are basically sandworms. The difference is they fly. They're not in the sand. So let's get from you.
It's just instinctual to reach out and touch it.
Yeah, it's just instinctual. I would say that's probably will. Your will to want to do something. And then, I don't know, what have we got here? My question is the goal just to touch it? You're not trying to take one of the pieces off of it or any of that?
I just want to know what it feels like.
I'm going to actually make you roll a Beastways. Because that's what this is.
Will Beastways?
Yep. Will Beastways. Can you will the beast into letting you touch it? Like a literal Leviathan.
one success and a
Okay.
spirit dive 3.
Okay, one success. Not the greatest, but
Nope.
still things.
But wait, I can spend wait.
Uh-huh.
There's a spirit flower. Well, I could spend there's a spirit flower. I can spend a spirit to make that a 2, right? Because I
You
have an odd number.
can. You can.
Because I want to touch it.
I know you want to touch it so bad. I know you do.
I'm gonna spend one of my spirit pool that was given to me by that amazing story of Charlie to turn that one success into 2 successes, which would be it would go from a failure to a success.
Awesome. It's very slight, and it's moving so fast in this moment. You have a moment to get your hand out before you can, the tail whips past you, and you put your palm up flat. You reach as high as you can, sitting on your friend's shoulder, and you feel its belly. It almost jerks you a little bit as it speeds past. It is not at all what you expect. The ghost worms are cold. They literally, your hand contrasts that of the world around it. And when you're all done and it flips past and its tail literally flicks off the end of your little fingers, it knocks a few things loose. They clatter from the sky. You might even have to shield your eyes. And you look at your hand. It's covered in ash. Gray, white ash from the belly of this beast.
And I stretch my hand out to Maddox because I know that she needed tincture for the tattoo. And I reach out to Maddox with just this sort of look of without saying anything, but this look maybe this will be useful for you. As you see the different sort of color of ash on my hand.
I don't know how to collect it, but yes.
You...
And I run my finger through it off of her hand and kind of open my sketchbook.
Yeah.
And kind of sketch out the beast and, use the colors.
Oh, I love that. Okay, yeah, okay. You actually have a brush, like a charcoal brush, and you're able to, brush this off onto the book itself and use the ash from the creature like charcoal to draw its figure. Mm-hmm. I want to know how beautiful it is. I'm going to have you roll. This is the first time you've actually had to do art proper. So this, of course, is going to be your compassion, I'm guessing, die, because that's what this is coming from. And craft.
Craft and skill or craft and what? I'm sorry.
Compassion.
Craft and compassion. And I don't know, you haven't used the macro yet. And I don't even know that you were there earlier when we went over it, but there is one.
So if you click skill check roll, the first thing will show up is what type of die you should put in for your compassion. So if your compassion's a 10, you put in a 10 there. So, it should say 6 as default. And then next is the number of die for your skill. So if you have craft, you put in 3. If you don't have craft, you put in 1. And then the next thing would be the type of die for your skill.
Craft die, yeah. Which I think is 8 or D10 or whatever you've got. Okay.
That means you get a skill point.
You do. Yeah, the 4 adds a point for you, and you get 2, which is all you needed. It's by no means the greatest piece you've ever done. You're low on resources. The light here is dark. It is every artist's worst nightmare, except for the fact that this drawing is made with elements of this shard, a literal representation of the heart of Pyre. The first shard that we have visited in our campaign. And as the 4 of you stand there in what is basically a rotten tree graveyard, you look down to see what Tikra knocked free of the beast. And it was, in fact, a few bones, kind of scaly bits that fell off that could be repurposed or sold, reused. You've seen people make everything from instruments to weapons with these, depending on which shard you're from. They are very rare. And if, in fact, anybody from Pyre, especially the warbands, found out about you taking this, they would probably raid, kill you in your sleep, and sell it on the black market. So, but our camera will actually pan out tonight with the four of you standing in this dark, kind of black fog forest with an offering from the audience, where Tikara shattered off a piece of bone that fell to your feet. And we'll pick up next week as we exit Pyre and go to the next shard.
Yeah.
Wowzer! We did it, and I'm over time. I'm so sorry. Wow! We did it, y'all.
That was amazing.
That was so much fun. I can't
Yeah.
wait for next week. I cannot wait. And next week we'll have to do a giant lore dump so we can just play.
Next week maybe we won't steamroll your first trial for us.
No, so here's the thing. I had a feeling that might happen because I was unsure if Aramis had tattoos or not, and I had a feeling that they did, and that was a total option. I had that down as an option where Aramis could just skip over the trials, and actually it turned out to be kind of a interesting piece of storytelling to be like, you were all seen in a vision to do this thing, but really Aramis has been prepping for the first trial his whole life. Unknowingly, you know what I mean? Like unknowing has fulfilled this thing for all of you. So it was I just thought it was kind of cool and poetic, and what a shocker, y'all, to watch Aramis just cut that piece of flesh from their leg. What a great character moment. So you know what, Jason, you get to kick us off. You were the first thing talked about after the show ended, so tell us who you are, where we can find you when you're not here, and instead of doing an after show since we went over, we'll do a little, premiere after show. Tell us how you're feeling about the system, what you're liking, what your favorite part was. I don't know. Talk to us, Jason.
Jason T. D&DDM from Twitterverse. Man, this system, it's just so easy to roleplay it. Because the way that the colors are so inherently woven into your character, it's evocative of the emotion that you need to play for that character.
Yes.
So, and that's essentially kind of what drives, because you have your core virtue, and that, I mean, twist it around a little bit, there's going to be a core type of emotion that exudes from that. And it's amazing because I think each one of the characters have very much hit on all of those things. And it's just so easy to do. It's crazy. Like, I could see like people that would be really afraid to role play. Not somebody like all of us who've done it a million times over. Like, you could drop this onto like a group that's afraid to role play, and just the creation of the character and using them lends itself to really, really good role play. And and that's so hard to come by. Like in a lot of systems, it's so mechanically heavy as opposed to this. I mean, yeah, there's some mechanics to it, but for the most part, it's very much, role play it out and see what happens.
It really is like story and lore, and like you're talking about, like the world is what makes this so interesting. And I hadn't really thought about it that way. That the way that characters are built around the virtues and how those virtues attach to the shard that they're from really does kind of drive kind of specific directions. And I'm sure you could build like a character against the type, right? But you're right, it's a very easy starting point for people that might be new to role playing and who may not be interested in your regular fantasy game either.
And Trooper, kudos to you. It doesn't happen to me often. You made me cry.
I synced it.
And it the whole leaning forward, quizzical, listening to a story very much made me think of my daughter. So that was a really heartfelt moment for me. So I just pictured her on my shoulder, and that was so visually evocative. The way you described that was amazing.
Yeah, such a great moment. Well, I look forward to seeing you back here, Jason. Hopefully I haven't scared you off too much. Plus, I really look forward to the Pyroid going to other places. Like, you're gonna have to walk through the tundra of Zenith,
I am social contact doom. I warn you.
Oh, I can't wait. This is gonna be great. Or you have to walk through the forest and stuff. Like, I can't wait to see if you light things on fire and just like, So excited. Okay. Next up, Eugenio.
Hey everybody, I'm Eugenio, also known as DM Jazzy Hands. You can find me on the Twitters at DM Jazzy Hands. You can find my actual play podcast that drops new episodes on Twitter at DND Last Refuge. Obviously, I'm here every Wednesday. I'm so excited. You can find me on Thursdays on the Wandering DMs channel doing a game of Dragon Age. And that's me for right now. I had such a good time being on the other side of this.
Good.
I will confess that in general with role-playing games, I do find that my overall enjoyment is higher when I'm GMing than when I'm playing. That's not true with this game. This was so great. Oh, you are also a brilliant storyteller, and that has a lot to do with what I have to say. Very picky. But
Everybody heard it here first.
no, but exactly what we were just saying about, there are so many ins to role-playing in this system, and there are so many cool and unique mechanics and lore points, and Dot, you've done such a good job of like outlining an adventure for this campaign that like uses all of them, which is amazing. The one that I ran was primarily on Hark, which was fine and very
and you were in like the
interesting, and
cool
I can't
city.
wait till we get to Hark.
Yeah,
it was super cool.
Hark has got a lot going on. It was like one of the
Definitely.
chunkiest section of the book. But yeah, I went that too because I had a moment where I was like, I'm gonna stick with this one. And I was like, no, I'm gonna do this shard. No, I'm gonna do this shard. And then I was like, screw it. We are going to all of the shards in this campaign. So we're aiming to get to all of the shards. Chat, you hold me to that.
I am, so I'm just really excited about that. And like, I don't know if I knew I was doing this when I created Charlie, but like my excitement about finding out more about each of these shards, like as a player, is going to be real easy to play Charlie.
Natural excitement. I love it.
Yeah. So no, it's been awesome. Thank you. And oh my God, chat, you all were amazing tonight. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, chat.
It's, that much more fun to like see you all engaged and enjoying things when we're playing. It feels real good. So thank you all. This was awesome.
Yeah, very nice. And that leads me to Trooper.
What? Hey, I'm Trooper SJP. And you can find me at Trooper SJP on Twitch. And on Fridays at 7 p.m., I'm GMing a French Resistance campaign, historical, using Fate. And Dot is one of the players. And you should see it because she's amazing.
If you want to watch me kill Nazis, yes. I'm really good at it.
Yes, she is.
It's such a good show.
You can come watch me kill a lot. I'm aiming for more Nazis to be killed by the time it's over.
And her character's in a bit of a space. She's working through some stuff, and how
she has some trauma.
Is with a little bit of murder. So it's a little bit of murder. And I'm GMing A Good Society on Saturday, a 2-shot of Good Society, which is a Jane Austen RPG over at Roll For It, at noon, I think, or noon. We're gonna say
sure.
We're at 1 o'clock over in the Roll For It on Saturday, starting this Saturday. So that's very exciting. You can find me all sorts of places. But so also made me cry. That was you, Kai. You made me cry this time. With the description of the tattoo was just so was just so like emotionally meaningful. I was like, okay, now I got. I feel, and it's episode 1, people. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of tearing up all throughout this campaign.
It's so amazing. It's just so moving. Yeah. Like the build of the game is kind of moving and passionate and personal.
Yeah, and there's just something really. I don't know. There's something about our crew. I don't know. There's an energy that I'm very excited to live in this energy for a while and sort of be here. There's a kind of like an openness.
Yeah.
And I wonder about, Marshall McLuhan, the medium is a message and all of that. You can do anything in any system, right?
Right. That is sure. Technically, that is correct.
Technically, you can do anything in any system, but the tools a system gives you helps influence what it is you think you can or will do. And I think there's something about the way that characters are constructed in this system with their core virtue and sort of setting up from one of the things in the book is that as a Skyborn, which all of us are, you are driven to make the world a better place. It is part of the setup of the campaign. You're not necessarily just a mercenary doing things for money. right? This idea, this drive to make things better.
It's what ties the Skyborn together.
It's what ties them together, and it's sort of core, and this idea of having core virtues, that like we don't have like abilities or attributes, we have virtues. And this way of setting up this thing, I think, gives just a different flavor, right, to your character. Like I think about a character who is chaotic good very differently than I think about a character whose core virtue is compassion or whose core virtue is wisdom. And I just really felt that the energy of the system itself helped this group be the group that it was, right? That it is. Like I just felt this sort of really intense, and I know that Kai Maddox's core virtue is compassion, right? And Charlie's is logic, and like just the ways in which I just felt it was a very different feeling, and I loved that. It was and it's one of the reasons why I play different RPGs, because I like how different RPGs make you play differently, and how the system of the game itself evokes different things in you, and I really like what this is evoking. So you should all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, the first time I opened it up, I was like, this speaks to me in so many ways. Especially for those of us that like games that do have that emotional attachment, something that's a little deeper than just combat RPGs, which is what D&D is, right? And as you said,
love a good combat RPG.
Me too. Don't get me wrong. Like I love it. But there is something to be said for an RPG that's rooted in something different. Like it even says in the book for GMs that it's not a system heavy game. Therefore, combat's like quick and dirty. There's only usually a couple rolls, and that it's really more about the storytelling piece and how these people, these particular Skyborn, are trying to change this place, trying to do those right things, and through the great Overlight. And I just think it's a wholesome game in that regard, though there are some dark things here. We're gonna find those it's funny, as we travel from the darkest place up, things become more problematic. You'll find darker in politics and people.
I don't know. Vale feels like the most problematic to me.
Vale is very problematic, but
I'm really excited to be there next.
I was about to say Vale is super problematic. We're it's like for you VTM fans, it's basically Toreador Island is what it is.
With slavery.
With a slavery. Yeah, Toreador Island with slavery. But there's yeah, it's just I'm so with you there, and this was a premiere episode, and not only because of the incredible talent at the table, but this game invokes those kind of emotions. We had 3 cries at the table, 2 cries at the table. My heart. Yeah. All right, last but certainly not least, Kai. Also, you look amazing. I'm gonna have to step my game up if you keep coming to the table like that.
Thanks.
Sam. I was like, well, eyeliner, I'll be fine.
Right, Dion. No, you look great. And it was a total pleasure to have you here. Yeah, tell us where we can find you and you spill your guts.
Oh gosh, I'm Stonefly_Kai on Instagram and Twitter mainly. My kind of baby project is this podcast that we do. That is called Feyforged Academy. It's kind of a mix between Harry Potter, the Magicians. It's a witchcraft and D&D podcast. So that's my baby. And then this game. Oh my gosh. So I do agree that the game does lend to a lot of very fun role playing. But on the same token, like I just think we all meshed and melded so well together. I loved how we kind of have this academic group with me and Charlie, and then this like rough and tumble group. And it just felt so natural at the table with all of you that it just was so easy. So that was so fun because I don't think in a premiere or first time episode that's ever happened for me. And then the system I really like, and Dot, you do an amazing job with this, is I really get immersed with a lot of description and where I can see the place I'm at. And it just was beautiful. I could see Pyre.
PYOR.
Yeah, it was easy just to immerse myself in there. So I really like that.
Good, because the system spoke to me, and it's too beautiful of a system not to have excessive ungodly detail. It deserves every ounce of it. And again, as we move through the shards, we'll probably get more and more and more of it. So I've also picked some very interesting locations for the record. So everything, I'll tell you this, everything that was put on your list to complete came straight out of the book. It's all populated from the core rulebook. And reading on each of the shards, there are little things, or they're like, this is a ritual somebody does, or this is a thing here. So everything comes from at least one inspiration from the core rulebook. So yeah, there you go. It makes me so happy to hear the kind things you're saying about just the group dynamic and table, because I totally agree. I know each of you individually. This is my hint at casting people, because this is the second time I've heard this about a campaign. It's like, oh, you just brought people together that really melded, and I was like, I just know a lot of amazing humans, and I can say that I am privileged and lucky to know amazing humans. So when I know a lot of amazing people, I can bring them together at a table and make a little soup for all of us. And so I'm just glad the audience is here to drink it up. I'm glad that it's working for all of you, because there's always those nerves on the first one, and Lord knows I was real nervous. And then I had those sound issues at the top. I was a hot dot mess when we started. And so all of you really alleviated that and just dove right in, and that makes my heart swell. So I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for each having these incredible moments, for really owning your character and taking a chance on a new system and on me to kind of facilitate through all of it. So thank you. I'm Little Red Dot. This is the Dot Lot. This is a place where I tell stories and roll dice with amazing people like this. We have community game days. The best way really to keep up with what's going on here specifically and with me is actually go to my Discord. You're welcome to join. The Dot Lot hangs out there. You'll see these faces in there. You'll see a bunch of other faces. Much of chat is currently in that Discord, and lots of announcements and things. Go there. So, yeah, when I'm not here on my own channel, I'm run the Dad's Garage ATL Twitch channel, which is an improv theater company that I do marketing for, and we've started a Twitch channel during these trying times. So come check us out. You can check us out all day long. Our improvisers do all of the shows from their homes, and it's basically like that SNL show that they did, but every day of the week. So it's nuts. It's full nuts. And then, of course, you can check me out on Fridays with Trooper. You can check me out on Thursdays running a Coriolis campaign. If you love the kind of obscure fantasy here, I bring that obscure kind of world to sci-fi in a Coriolis campaign over on Unmade Gaming. And then Saturdays, you can catch me on the Roll For It Network, my home away from home, where I play a very dark campaign of Vampire the Masquerade. Yeah, I think that's all the big stuff. I am excited to announce that Sunday Fun Days, which is our monthly community game day, is going to take a little minor change moving forward. Instead of me being the only person that GMs 2 games every 4 Sundays, I'm opening up one of those slots to all of you to GM. So there will be a form. It will go to the Patreon first, and a Patreon can, basically all you're going to do is tell me the dates you're available based on what I give and what kind of system you might want to run, what game you might want to run. Do you have suggested players? And then I'm going to try to curate over a period of time ways for others to come and GM on the channel. So I'm very, very excited. And then I will, of course, continue to GM at least 1 slot on Sunday Fun Days. Oh, thank you for that subscription. Yeah, I think that's all the big stuff. Did I get it all? I think I got it all. I want to thank you all so much for being here and making, the 4 of you for being here, for chat for being here. Oh, and I should say, thank you so much to everyone who gave bits, tips, and donations tonight. You need to know that everything that you give helps support this channel and helps me pay these players so that I can continue to bring great talent. I was looking to see if I had any messages here. It doesn't look like it. I gotta advance that shatter bar. Somebody was desperate.
Oh my goodness, thanks for the sub too, by the way.
Yes. Oh, nice.
Thanks for gifting it.
Yes, thank you on my part too.
Thank you. Now you guys can share Pride Cake in chat.
The fried cake's the best cake.
So just know we really appreciate it. If you would like to continue to support, there are lots of ways to do it. Follow, subscribe, all of the Twitch ways that you know. But you can also come join the Patreon, where I do things like try to give early information, bits and little bits about what's going on the channel before anybody else gets to see it. And depending on the tier, I might even run a game for you and your friends privately on a monthly basis. So actually, I found Coriolis thanks to a patron game that I got to play in. So lots of fun things there. Thank you for the pride cake in chat. Eat it up. And we're going to go eat our pride cake. And be so grateful for all of you until next week, where we will be right here, same dot time, same dot channel, for the second episode of Nova, a Overlight campaign. Until then, you guys stay good, wash your hands, and stay home. Especially if you live in Georgia, do not listen to our governor
true.
at all. Stay inside. I love you all.